Hello, everyone. It is me, Mu Tori. Mu means more TikTok reactions. So, if you don't know what that is, currently on TikTok, I like to say there's a lot of flavors, sometimes of the month, sometimes of the week. The more young, hip people might call it the trends of TikTok. And currently, I'm getting nonstop bombarded by a trend with Mu Tori. So basically, there's like a Vocaloid character that's just appearing in like public tragedies, saying how like she's so happy and like how she's there to like make you smile, I guess. But it's all I've been getting. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, gamers, and mutoris, welcome back to another TikTok reaction, episode 22. I totally didn't look that up right now. Episode number 22. So, we're here earlier in the day, in fact, because I'm going to be a little busy later on tonight at Twitch TV/Tecnics channel streaming some video games training, in fact, for some tournaments I'm going to be participating in. Anyway, before that happens, I thought we'd get some TikTok reactions out the way. It's Friday, so we do these on Friday. This is the Dark Dimension series where I show off how fucked things are. So without further ado, in the interest of time, let us go forward.
Phoenix, Arizona is the latest front line in America's war on homelessness. Because downtown, you'll find an enormous encampment known as the
Zone. Before we actually start, I actually have a shit ton of food near me. So let me describe my palate before we start the TikTok reactions. I got my Chipotle, which is actually still warm because we're not doing this at fucking 1 a.m. We're doing it at 8 p.m. Excuse me. I have some yogurt, some blueberry yogurt, and I have some Tostones chips. This is the first time I'm going to be trying Tostones, so wish me luck. Anyway, if you hear any crunching, chomping, or chewing, that's what I'm eating. One of those three. Anyway, let's keep going. So, homelessness, huh? Pretty fucking crazy. A topic I am very familiar with. Living in the NY of C. Homelessness is rampant, and it's just getting even worse because of the economy. The economy is getting worse. Wage inflation is really bad. Wages are not keeping up with the price of everything, and everything is going way worse. And there's a big epidemic in this country, not only economically, but also mentally. But anyway, maybe Philly D will describe it more for us before I open my big mouth for like 30 fucking seconds.
Zone with over 900 homeless people sprawled out over some 10 blocks. And last year, you had a group of local business owners suing the city and state court, arguing that it has a responsibility to fix the problem. With plaintiffs at the Old Station Sub Shop, which opened nearly 4 decades ago, saying they've seen conditions worsen drastically over the past few years.
They haven't
with its owners reporting
better,
damaged property,
worse.
needles, and human excrement. With the decreased foot traffic and increased security costs, it's become unaffordable to continue doing business there. So this lawsuit's been described as a last-ditch effort to save their livelihood before they're forced to sell to whoever's willing to buy the devalued property. And so what we saw is in March, a judge ruled in favor of the business owners, giving Phoenix until July to bring the area into compliance with public nuisance laws. So this week, city officials will begin clearing out the zone. But with most shelter beds taken each night, it's unclear where people are actually supposed to go. Plus, many are reportedly in that zone camp because it's right next door to the nonprofit Human Services campus, where they notably have access to shelter beds that are full on most nights, food, water, and healthcare, all of which are critical during Arizona's scorching summers. Which is why we're seeing that nonprofit CEO arguing that as people are pushed farther from their services, more of them are going to die or get sick. Which is why you have critics saying this only pushes the problem out of sight. Phoenix.
So this is a good example of a problem that doesn't have a clear solution, which is homelessness in general. I mean, the biggest solution to homelessness is just, provide more public housing, more resources, more help to these poor people. Because being homeless is not easy, and I guarantee you this. Obviously, there's a big stigma with homelessness. The big stigma is, they did something wrong, they're doing drugs, they put themselves there. And for some of them, that's obviously the case, especially in New York. But for some of them, it's not. Some of them are just down on their luck. And, as with everything in this series, like I always say, I've mentioned this before, but I have. And this is where the issue comes in. So the business owners have to make a livelihood unless they want to be homeless, right? Unless they're going to get homeless. So they're making the city do something, which they should. But what's the city going to do? Push it somewhere else. It's essentially the problem they did with Bikini Bottom, the solution, rather. They're going to take the homelessness and they're going to push it somewhere else. Now, similar to the solution offered in SpongeBob, it didn't really help anyone because the Alaskan bullworm, I think, went there anyway. So, similar to real life, pushing it somewhere else is not going to solve the issue. But it's like, how do you solve this thing? They're there because they're right near a resource that they need, especially in the summer. And if you push them away, it's just going to make things worse. I'm telling you, this is all culminating. I don't know the solution to this issue. But the bigger issue that this is culminating into is a big matchstick, a big smoking gun. Or sorry, what I used to call was a big powder keg. A big powder keg of this shit is not going right, and pretty soon there's going to be so much going wrong, people are going to have enough, and something's going to happen. I'm not going to say any more than that, but people might know what I mean if they watched all the other episodes. Anyway, yeah, so homelessness is getting worse. Surprise, surprise. Let's go next. One day I might even be homeless and not be able to make videos anymore. How sad. How sad that would be for the world and my thousands and thousands of viewers. Anyway, let's keep going.
You were a living, breathing human being, and
Yes.
you've looked around at the world for the past 30 years.
Yes.
You probably realized at this point, like, the world's very broken.
Yes, and I've only been looking at it for 25.
Especially from my perspective, being a millennial living in the US, I cannot believe how far the standard of living has fallen.
Now think about this. These are the millennials saying it. So the millennials, for those of you who don't know, I'm a Gen Zer. At 25 years old, you're considered Gen Z. I'm almost at the forefront of Gen Z. A year earlier, if I was 26, I'd be the beginning of Gen Z, but I'm the second gen of Gen Z. So the fact that millennials are saying this garbage, that like things are so bad, we're noticing it, it's only getting worse. That's the scary part. It's so sad because we hear these stories of like, oh, having one source of income, being able to afford a fucking house off of minimum wage eventually, not instantly, but eventually, probably with a mortgage, but still. So it's like we hear all these things and they tell us like, okay, you don't like where you're at, go to college. If you go to college, you get like crippling debt. Oh, well, why'd you get crippling debt? Why'd you go to college? You didn't have to do that. Well, we kind of do. And now if you go to college, you don't even get enough money after college for most people. Some people do. Some people obviously use college well. But a lot of the people, and this is where I don't have the statistic to back me up, or even if I did, if I know it was true, I wouldn't know. But this is where, things are just fucked and there's almost no way out for more and more people. And again, it's going to lead to the powdered keg. In fact, I think I might have thought of the episode name for this, the powdered keg.
Since I was a kid. Like, it's not even the same country. I can't even believe this is the same place.
And the veterans agree, if you remember in a previous episode, the veterans are crying at what they fought for. Because this is not what they fought for. It's very sad.
We are declining at a nosedive pace right now. What if
Yes.
I told you that almost everything that we're seeing today can actually be traced to the end of the Cold War?
What?
The Cold War was an ideological battle between capitalism and socialism. And this was more than just whose system is better, but whose system is going to be the future. Well, the US government thought about this. And they thought the only way we're going to win this ideological battle is if we don't treat our poor people like shit. Because if we keep treating our poor people like shit, they're going to look at the Soviet Union and start asking themselves, why do they have healthcare and we don't?
So this is ironically something that's happening right now. Again, a big issue I'm having just personally in my own life is recognizing whether things are real or whether things are true in reality. I question whether TikTok is feeding me this because it's actually getting widespread or because the algorithm thinks I like it. Now, obviously, the first one would confirm my bias and I'd be happy but also sad because, it's getting more widespread. But essentially, when things are so bad, people are going to start to question the status quo. We're already seeing from these videos that are hopefully indicative of the reality that people are already questioning capitalism. We're already questioning, especially Second Life on YouTube. Second Life and people are questioning, we're in late stage capitalism. This is not working for the majority of us. We need something to change. This is where it's gotten so bad we're questioning just the bare level of things.
Why do they have food and we don't? Why do they have jobs and we don't? I thought you said capitalism was the better system. Seems like you lie. And they definitely didn't want that because that would be like a revolution. There was a big effort, especially at the beginning of the Cold War, of having good labor laws.
So this is where I don't think capitalism lied. This is where I think, again, I'm always going to bring it back to this, as in the other videos. It all goes back to human nature. Communism on paper is not bad. Humans make it bad. Capitalism on paper is a little exploitative, but as we saw for a long time, it was mostly good. No system is going to be perfect. There's going to be people suffering in every system, but you want to minimize that. Now, the problem is with capitalism, when we're reaching late stage as we are now, a lot of people are not having a good time. And the whole point of the thing is of the system is to have as many people have a good time as it can. Hopefully, right? We'd hope that. We hope it's not just for the 1% of the 1%, which it is now. So this is where, even if we go to a new system, excuse me, in the beginning, yeah, it might be a little better, but I fully believe no matter what system we're in, because again, look at communism. On paper, it works. We're the ones that fuck it up. This is where I think no matter what system we go to, we're gonna fuck it up. We're gonna find some way to be greedy or to be evil, and yeah, it might work for a little bit, but eventually it's gonna need to be replaced by something else. I don't think we'll ever get to a point in our species, unless we fight aliens or something, that racism is cured, or that exploitation stops, or that a system in place for economics will work for everyone. It just won't happen. Like, it really just won't. Because if you give the hands to the people, a lot of people are stupid. So the people can't govern themselves for the most part. And I'm included in that. I'm one of the stupids. I'm not saying I'm above anyone. But if you leave the power in the hands of, like, a few select people, they become corrupt. So what can you do? Like, it's really hard. It's another thing that doesn't really have an answer.
Having jobs that paid well, having inexpensive education and healthcare.
Yeah, free.
Because if these things were unattainable, then people would start to see socialism as a better system. Then,
and we do.
Something very unexpected happened in the 90s.
Whoa!
Boris Yeltsin, the leader of Russia, decided to illegally dissolve the Soviet Union.
Illegal?
Now, the end of the Soviet Union is a very complicated topic, but 78% of Soviet citizens actually voted to preserve the Soviet Union. And Boris Yeltsin kind of just dissolved it anyway.
Wow.
Which I think is very poetic, because that's like the number one rule of capitalism. Is under capitalism, rich and powerful people get to do whatever the fuck they want, and none of you can do a thing about it.
That's
true. The Russian people found out really quickly what capitalism is really like, and millions of them died because they didn't have healthcare or job. But the end of the Soviet Union was a blessing for U.S. policymakers, because they realized they don't have to pretend to care about poor people anymore. They can cut any regulation they don't like. They can cut any labor law that they don't like. They can drive any union they want into the ground. The U.S. government's not going to stop them.
Yeah, and if anything, they'll help them.
But yeah, for the past 30 years, corporations and rich people have just gone crazy.
Yes.
Seeing what they can get away with.
Yes.
And so far, they've gotten away with all of it.
Oh my God.
Quality of life is not only going down for Americans, it's going down for everybody who has a free market capitalist system, which is like 95% of the world.
Yes.
Things are shitty right now because the Western powers won the Cold War. They got a big head. They decided they don't have to care about poor people anymore. And now they've been seeing what they can get away with great effect, actually. So why are things so shitty today? Oh, well, I don't know. It's probably because we let corporations and rich people run the economy. Who would have guessed that that would be a disaster?
So, yeah, he basically is very right with a lot of what he's saying in my eyes. Now, again, here's the topic, right? Where if we let the rich rule, they become corrupt, or they become rich. Whoever rules is going to become rich and going to become corrupt. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. But the other issue here, and, I just want to bring it up for thought, because, again, there's no answer to this, is how do we know what he's saying is true? Now, obviously, the Cold War had an effect, right? But what if this is just all a bunch of hoo-ha that he's saying? They're like, oh, yeah, the reason that we treated the poor people good is because the Soviet Union, we didn't want people thinking communism was better. What if that's not the case? Because a lot of people in this country are, I don't want to say hypnotized, because that makes me sound like a conspiracy theorist, which I hope I'm not. But they're definitely brainwashed in a way because of the media. And I know that because I have a media degree. And this is where I think it's to a point where even if people fight back now, the only reason, like, nowadays that I'm scared we can't really do anything is because the media and the ways of manipulation and just the general control they have over people's lives with how intrusive they've become is on a new level. I mean, look at ads, right? Ads based on what we're talking about with our friends, with our phones nearby. You'll get ads for that. And I've seen it, probably everyone here has seen it too, where let's just say I'm talking about like super powered pocket pussies or something, right? Just like joking around with my friends. On my phone in the Google ads section, when I'm on some website, it's going to show super powered pocket pussies. Be like, oh, do you want this? And I never searched for it. All I did was talk about it with my friends. So, they're always listening, even in games, right? Even in Overwatch 2, which I play at Twitch TV/Tecnics channel, they record the fucking game chat, and they could say all the things they want of, oh yeah, we don't keep it, we don't listen to it, but Blizzard has already lied, and taking it away from Blizzard, all these big corporations. So again, how can we trust anything at this point? At this point, I just go forward, assume they can hear everything, they know everything, so, watch me jack off. Like, who cares? You're gonna watch it anyway, I know I can't hide it, just watch me jack off at that point. But anyway, yeah, so pretty depressing stuff. But I don't know if it's true. I don't know if this is all applicable to, excuse me, the Soviet Union existing, and that's why people were treated right. I think just people got more and more control and pushed further and further, left unchecked, and that's kind of where we are. But I could be wrong. There's no way to really confirm or deny this, but pretty good video. Let's go next. Ooh.
Haven't seen this clip yet? You need to.
Oh,
One day,
shit.
a friend of mine was like, yo, man, I went to school for being a financial historian.
Oh.
So I'm like, bro, I don't know what that is. What is that? And he's like, bro, we study rich people's spending habits.
Oh.
So when he found out what the banks and the wealthy were doing, this is what he did.
I'm going to open up insurance, put $2-3 million in my insurance, and borrow from that and put it back in.
So traditionally,
What?
you would take your money, put it in a bank account, and leave it there where it earns practically no interest, while the bank...
And the reason they do that is because the big banks have no incentive to give you interest because they get all your money anyway. Which I honestly think it has a big thing to do with not miseducation, uneducated people. It has to do with ignorance. Now, recently I helped one of my friends, who I'll remain anonymous, although he's bald. So I helped my bald friend recently move his money to a better banking account. This bald friend used one of the big banks that basically gave him jack diddly squat for interest. It gave him like 0.01%. Not 1%, a tenth of 1% of interest a year, which is next to nothing. And this is where, in reality, to me, it doesn't make sense. Like, these people are getting no interest, right, from these big banks. How do these big banks have all these assets? People keep putting their money with the big banks. And you know why I think it is, after thinking about it for a little bit? It's because the big banks are well known and people have trust in them. Because they're well known, because you know the name JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, what's another one? I don't really know what other big ones there are. I don't know. Well, Capital One has good rates because I use them. But yeah, Chase, Bank of America, they have terrible rates, and they're some of the biggest banks around because they have a recognizable name. So they don't need to compete for people because they know people are gonna go to them. So there's no incentive to offer people anything. Whereas the smaller banks, they have a huge incentive to give you higher interest rates because they want your business, they want money, they want assets. So they have to kind of go out on a limb and give you higher interest rates, which they can totally do because banks are profitable. Small, medium, large, they're all profitable as long as they don't do the stupid shit that they used to do. But essentially, the smaller banks don't really get a lot of the assets because they're smaller banks, and this is where I think the ignorance comes in. A lot of people are scared of the smaller banks, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't even know what the FDIC is. For those of you who don't, the FDIC is a government program from good old-fashioned Great Depression era, where everyone lost their money in the bank, saying, hey, if you put your money in an FDIC-insured bank, it will be fine. There is no problem. We will reimburse you if you lose it up to an amount that back then was a lot. Nowadays is not a lot anymore, but they kind of proved with the bank that basically shot itself that amount is kind of up in the air now because they'll still save the banks because they have to. But off topic. Anyway, so essentially a lot of people don't trust these small banks, especially the online-only banks. But if it's FDIC insured, it's safe. But a lot of people just see Chase and Bank of America. Oh, lovely, my phone's ringing. And then they'll just do their thing. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to speak with my family because I'm assuming that calls for me. This is the lovely thing about recording in the day, by the way. I'm not editing this out either. But let's keep listening while I potentially mute myself and we watch the rest of this.
Then takes that money, puts it into a bank-owned life insurance policy, earning compounding interest, and then taking that money and loaning it out, earning more interest, and then paying back all the people who left the money in their bank accounts, a very, very small percent. But what he's saying instead is to take that money, put it in his own life insurance policy, like an indexed universal life policy, where he can then take loans from the policy and put it towards a down payment on real estate, or to invest it in crypto, or to even use it for a retirement if you're not Waka Flocka Flame with millions of dollars. It's yours to do with however you wish. And there's more benefits than just the cash value. Your account continues to grow tax-free. There is a death benefit, so when you pass, your loved ones will receive that death benefit.
This is like, I included this just to show how bullshit this is. This is so nonsense. Like, it's actually insane. This is like free money hacks right here. But again, people are probably too scared to do this. I know I'm too scared to do this because, again, this seems too good to be true, right? It's the same things with the smaller banks. Like, oh, a smaller bank that gives like 5% interest while Chase is only giving 0.01. Oh, the smaller bank must be a scam. It says FDIC, but I don't trust it. It's the same thing here, I think. Now, obviously, I'm not encouraging anyone to do what he's saying here. But, this is, you know, it's definitely a little like, you know, you're scared of it because it's like too good to be true almost.
These policies come with critical...
And nowadays, with how many things are false and how many things are scams, I don't even blame people for not trusting this shit.
Chronic and
not just this, the banks too.
Terminal illness riders if you are ever to become sick.
Wow.
They have a 0% floor, meaning we only benefit from the market growth, and we aren't negatively affected by market downturns, which means we get uninterrupted compounding interest year after year. So if you're interested in learning how to get one of these set up for yourself, we'd be happy to help you. Just go ahead and type a hello in the comments section, and I'll send you a message. And if you like this video and you want to see more like it, go ahead and hit that plus sign so that when I release another one, it'll show up on your feed. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, no thanks, U.S. Policy Advisor. But, I don't think he's going to be sending a message to like 6,000 people personally. But yeah, no, there's free money hacks out there. And this was the biggest thing that I knew existed. And again, in past episodes, I advocated for. In past episodes, I always advocated, if you want to make money, I knew in the past that you can make money with money. I didn't know how. And then I researched into the rich people. And how do they do it? Well, they exploit someone. They make a really big corporation that gets tons of money. And they do the stock market. Now, I can only do one of those three, which is the stock market. And, you know, you got to be careful with the stock market. You could lose everything in there. But overall, it's pretty good because that's the way the rich people make money. Anyway, let's go next.
Wow, what a week. Holy smokes. Soon you'll be able to tell your kids about how the United States dollar was once the strongest currency in the world, and you were there to watch it all fall into ruin in the spring of 2023.
Are warning the collapse of another American bank could lead to a credit crunch and an economic slowdown.
As banks collapsed all around you, and how you had to pull your money out of your local banks and put it into gold and silver and real estate just to protect your family. How the president of Ukraine just met yesterday with Blackrock. Yes, the largest asset manager.
We all know and love Blackrock, the managers who own everything, and that I walk by every day to work.
In the world, as this war has helped them add $9 trillion to their balance sheets. Yeah.
So this is where I feel like history is repeating itself. 100 years ago, we were in a big economic depression. 100 years later, we're in a big economic depression around the same time. What got us out of it? War. What might get us out of it this time? Potential war. I mean, we can already see BlackRock is like reaching their talons into Ukraine now, so they're going to own that now too. So lovely.
Yeah, BlackRock now owns over 30% of Ukraine. You don't think this was all planned? What a clown world we are living in. This weekend, gold hit a brand new record high as people freak out about government currencies, which are, of course, tanking. And this week, we entered the most dangerous period yet, with economists saying this could be...
So also, we have to remember that, I forgot to mention in the beginning, a lot of these videos are very old still. I mean, this one's from May 7th, even though we were just in June. But, yeah, these are a little old, and because I've sent them to myself so long ago, I don't remember many of them. But this one is definitely interesting.
Worse than the Great Depression or the financial crisis of 2008.
Inflation is going to get worse, and so is the current financial crisis. And nobody wants to admit we're in a financial crisis. It is worse than the one we had in 2008.
Insane.
It's just getting started.
And this is the craziest part too, right? This is going to be a little spoiler alert for some of the videos I sent myself today. I sent myself some videos about climate change. We're actually reaching the point where 2 days ago, was the hottest day around the world like ever recorded. for that day. It's actually insane.
Friday was a bloodbath for the US dollar, and we're going to get into all of the latest important news that you need to know about just in a minute here. But first, you'll also be able to tell your kids that you were there when they took away the paper dollar and coins in favor of a US digital currency. And you'd be...
So the ironic part is they're already doing this with the MTA with Omni. So it's showing up already in other like facets of society too.
Correct, because 50 days from now, the United States dollar changes forever. That's right, in July. And just 3 weeks ago, the U.S. Federal Reserve started the process, the rollout of this new central bank digital U.S. dollar. The full rollout happens in July. So guess what? On July 4th, on Independence Day, we can celebrate losing our freedom. This is not hyperbole. Your freedom to use cash the way you want to is going to change forever. Just like what Europe did a few weeks ago, making it illegal to spend cash over $1,000 or 1,000 euros. You can't...
Like, are you serious? This doesn't sound real. This legit does not sound real. They're limiting what you can buy in cash because they can't track it. Again, it all goes into control and how they can trace you. It's actually crazy. I sound so conspiracy theorist, but like, look at this shit. This is insane. Yo, Europe, they got some issues, man. And the worst part is we're probably going to get some issues too.
Can't use 1,000 euros to pay cash. Maybe you want to get some trees removed in your yard and you want to pay the gardener to do that. You can't pay him in cash anymore. Can you imagine? Think that's fake news? Here's...
Ironically enough, I think it is fake news. It sounds like fake news. The craziest part is, how will this affect like undocumented workers who are not legal? I mean, we already see what's happening in Florida. They outlawed undocumented workers and their economy's collapsing. So I don't know if this is necessarily a good thing to limit cash, at least in Europe. I hope they don't do this in America.
The head of the European Central Bank, Christine Lagarde, explaining it.
No, the problem is they don't want to be controlled. They don't want to...
Yeah, but you know what? Now we have in Europe this threshold. Above 1,000 euros, you cannot pay cash. If you do, you are on the grey market. You take your risk. You get caught, you are fined, or you go in jail.
See, this is insane. This legit sounds like China's freaking like social credit system where, oh, you do something we don't like, social credit down.
So no biggie, you can't spend your own money without the government tracking you, and you can go to jail for it. Wow, what a week.
What a week, holy moly. And this was in May. This was in the beginning of May. This is actually insane. Like, I almost don't know if this is real, and I want to say it's fake, but again, we live in the information age where there's so much information, we don't know what's real and what's not.
I can't handle another person.
Hey, we have Dr. Huey Lee, let's go.
Me how great the Chinese model is for economic growth. If you want to call something a model, you have to know how it works. You can't just be like, oh, the CCP is just smart. Well, first of all, I'm not sure smart is the right word, considering the same party created the biggest famine in the 20th century. Of course, you never saw pictures of that famine because journalism wasn't allowed. But these are...
So this is where, like, it goes to show you, right? China had one experience like this, but these problems used to occur because they literally could not be solved. Problem of hunger was there for a lot of our history because we didn't have enough food. We have more than enough food now, especially during this time. There's more than enough food being made. We have the technology, we have the know-how. It's just there's other things getting in the way where the primary problem of if we have it or not is solved. It's other bullshit on top of it.
These are China's official birth and death rates. Just imagine how many souls were buried in those deep weeds in the early 60s. But secondly, even if the CCP were smart, how do you plan to go about copying that smartness? Are you going to hire them to run your own economies? Or are you going to adopt the whole system? Like outlaw Google and Pornhub and shit? You don't even know where to...
Let me say this. We already saw this in the US when they tried to outlaw alcohol. It did not work. If they ever outlaw porn, this country is having a revolution. Probably that same week.
To start, right? Because you don't know which variable exactly explains that growth. I, however, know the trick. So listen up. In a nutshell, China's growth today was actually caused by the hunger and desperation in the past. If the CCP hadn't dragged the whole country through shit in the 60s and 70s, you wouldn't be seeing the rebound today. So you need to think.
So that's the sad part of reality, and it's how our economy works too. So in the US economy, when we have really, really good periods, they're often then followed by extreme economic downturns, and those economic downturns are followed by, guess what? Periods of high economic activity. So it's all in a graph, it's all in sort of like a wave, right? It's a cycle. So this is where, in reality, it's like this too. It's like the graphic, I don't know if anyone's seen it, but it's the graphic of, bad times make strong men. Strong men make good times. Good times make weak men. Weak men make bad times. That's essentially like the cycle.
Twice if you want to copy that model. So in 1958, Mao passed this incredible utopian law called the Hukou system. What is it? The short answer is that it banned moving. Yes, you heard it right. Moving, not movies. Well, of course, he did ban movies a few years later, but that was another story.
Wow.
Hukou was probably Mao's biggest policy innovation. Even Stalin wasn't sadistic enough to confine people in their villages. So one of the short-term effects was that when the famine hit, people couldn't move around to find food and had to die on the spot. But
just imagine that. You're starving, there's no food where you're at, you want to go find food, your country tells you no, sit there and starve.
The effect was that the rural areas become extremely underemployed because there wasn't enough farmland to keep everyone busy. So by the time Mao was gone, there were about 500 million artificially underemployed workers with barely enough food and no money at all. So when the moving ban was slowly lifted in the 80s and 90s, guess what? These workers became the cash cow of the Communist Party. They would take whatever abysmal jobs they can find in factories. And no other countries had nearly as many job seekers because they didn't restrict employment in the first place.
So this is where the sad part occurs of when you treat your people like shit. This is kind of what's happening in America, and I've mentioned this before. It's like the ant system. It's like the ant colony, right? People are so desperate that things cannot get better because you have someone willing to eat shit because eating shit is better than eating nothing. That's essentially what's happening in New York right now. Or not in New York, just in our economy in general. Because, like, labor is so bad by the employer to the employee, the employees can't fight back because they'll fire us and just replace us with another starving ant.
Therefore, China's growth...
And way more, corruption of them influencing the government. But we're not going to go over that, like, for the billionth time. At least not yet.
It's actually a rebound from the previously suppressed productivity. That's why even after 40 years of net-breaking GDP, it's still way poorer than a lot of East Asian countries. So, if you want to learn the Chinese model, the first thing you need to do is to turn your country into a big fat prison and starve half of your people. Easy, right? Finally, the Hukou system still exists. It's not as draconian as before, but it's still weighing workers down and benefiting the capitalists/communists. Yep, in the Chinese context, they are the same thing.
So that's actually crazy that China has adopted like a kind of mixed system. And we already see that it's not really going too good over there either, but they're like communism, but they also have a bit of capitalism, I heard. I honestly don't know, but Dr. Huey Lee, everyone, educating us about the fuckness of China. Very nice video. Let's go next. Oh! So here we have a little bit of slideshow. I'm not going to play this annoying ass music. Or actually, will I? Let me hear this. You know what? We will play it. Okay, so. Good morning, dog. This is your wake-up call. Your country has the highest maternal mortality. Okay, no, I can't with this music. We're going to listen to my Minecraft music in the background. Your country has the highest maternal mortality rate compared to other developed nations. And as we could see, the dog is not impressed by this. I'll never get over how people who can't afford to pay for their food will applaud a dude in a gold carriage. Yeah, honestly, what the hell? Then this guy's painting this house on fire. Or no, not even a house. Look at that! It's Bank of America! The guys who give you no interest because they'll get your money anyway. Also, I like this guy's shirt. This guy's shirt says Shitty Bank instead of Citibank. Another terrible bank. Anyway, could kids solve the labor shortage? The fact that we're even talking about this means they want to exploit us even more. And you know what's ironic too? I keep hearing this, and I've sent this to myself, so this is a spoiler for the future. But my generation, the young generation of the workforce now that's like really getting into it, they're called the hardest generation to work with. And one of the big reasons that is for multiple reasons, but one of the big one is basically we are the hardest to exploit because we see the wool taken off of our eyes. We see the reality of why are we doing this for essentially nothing. Oh my god, my family's like coughing up a storm. But anyway, why are we doing this when there's no light at the end of the tunnel? You could fool people before when there was no internet. But now that we're literally growing up on iPads, you can't fool us because we see it, because people are talking about it. So, you know, they're trying to figure out, oh, how do we solve the labor shortage? Because we can't really, like, exploit too hard my generation. Oh, why don't we get the kids who don't know any better yet? Oh, why not? Oh my god. So yeah, but if you hear like coughing or talking, that's my family. Because like I said, I'm doing this in the day. And I do apologize. I like to keep these very professional, as you can see. Anyway, HR manager, marketing manager, logistics manager, all the managers in the fucking country. Due to cutbacks, we're going to have to fire Dave. This is ironic because this is kind of what happens in my job too, where we have so many bosses that are so like, I guess I want to say focused on one specific thing where it really doesn't need to be. This is where I think companies have a big problem of bloat. When they get too big and they make too much money, they want to keep expanding past what I think they should. They make all these bosses for all these different things, and there ends up being bloat where they end up just, you know, punishing the worker instead of all the bosses that essentially almost do nothing. Anyway. Oh my god, my family is dying in the background. It's because of the economy, honestly. Having 3 dogs is as bad for the environment as taking a private jet. Whoever wrote this is a fucking idiot. Like, honestly, this is so biased, it's so wrong, and it's so obvious that they're trying to, like, make people feel bad for owning dogs. It's probably some, like, rich guy who had, like dogs, like, piss on his lawn or something. Or maybe he hears them barking and he gets upset. But yeah, just another way they try to gaslight us. Trying to summon more kitchen staff. But they need to be paid more for you to get them. And for them to stay. The barista waiting for you to tap 30% tip on the iPad for a microwaved croissant. Yeah, this is the sad part. I mean, I could go into a whole argument about tipping culture. But let's not go into that just yet. That's going to take like a whole like 10 minutes. If you raise the pension age by 2 weeks, we will bulldoze the Eiffel Tower. And as we can see, that's our friends over in France who are still fighting. And then here's America just taking it up the ass. You're cutting unemployment benefits. Next year, I'm going to vote so hard. Yeah, for the people who are going to do it. Oh my god. Oh, this is so dystopian right here. Holy shit. Eating disorder helpline fires staff, transitions to chatbot after unionization. So they unioned, and instead of hiring them back, instead of working with the union, they said, fuck it, we'll put AI in. The chatbot is named Tessa and will replace the entire helpline starting June 1st. So not only is this going to keep people fat, or skinny, honestly, or anorexic, because they have eating disorders, which is going to lead to, you know, the US being the laughingstock of health of the world. This is also just showing, right, that things are just getting more and more fucked. And this is the start of employers realizing they don't need employees, even though they kind of do, but they really don't. They do if they want to have like a good business, and they don't because this is something that is sort of needed. You don't really see, this is going to get into a complicated topic, but this is where a helpline like this is very much needed for these people who have eating disorders. And now that, you know, they're having Tessa replace everyone, it's just going to show you that the bosses really do not give a fuck, because this thing is going to stick around with or without the real employees. It's going to stick around with the bot. As shitty as it is, it needs to be around, quote unquote. Like, people aren't going to, well, you know, they might die if this thing isn't around more. But this isn't like food or water or something where it's like essential, but it pretty much kind of is. So with or without people, they're going to have a hotline there with the fucking Tessa bot. So it's just showing that, you know, again, I said this in the past, that employers are going to opt for AI because it's just the easier solution for them, money-wise, productivity-wise, like everything-wise, except actual, like, making the business good. Until AI actually gets good enough to outdo people, because I fully believe that could happen. AI won't get angry at you for yelling at them. AI will still help you. People will get angry at you and will fuck with you in subtle ways, like spitting in your food or fucking up your accounts. So AI can't really do that. Or at least I hope they can, unless Skynet happens. Anyway, this one's kind of long, so I'm not going to read this one. Ah, yes, look at them throwing away all that milk. So this is the crazy part, where in the US there's so much food waste, and even with all the food waste, we still have more food than we need for everyone. It's insane. The future has already arrived. Now you do not need to run and look for a public toilet. Our service allows you to call the toilet like a taxi. Tariffs available, economy, comfort, and business. There's no way this is real. Like, this actually has to be fake. I refuse to believe this is real. Like, we have drones, right? I think the biggest thing that made me think, okay, we're starting to get into the future is drones. When I was a kid, I used to see a flying car in my textbook for, like, history class or whatever, when we would get to, like, Common Era. But it wasn't anything that was, like, massively wide available, and it was in the early stages, and it looked kind of shitty. Now, we have things like this, where, you know, you can see the propellers on the drones. There's no way we're putting it on a flying fucking toilet. There's no way. I'm mad as hell, and I'm gonna continue to take it since I have no clue how to bring about actual change. That's basically us. We need change, but we don't know what we can do, or even if we can do anything anymore. But anyway, what a nice little panel. What a nice little bunch of panels here. Let's go next. Oh fuck, I have it muted, god damn it.
Grow house to so after using a fake grow house to lure Odessa police into an illegal raid, Barry Cooper and the Cop Buster video series ends up exposing the department and how they were using falsified affidavits to obtain search warrants. Shortly after, Barry's contributions to the drug war ultimately put him under the watchful eye of the man. Subject to search warrants on his own property, and was arrested on 3 separate misdemeanors, all due to his involvement in Cop Buster videos. All charges were dropped, but during the process of fighting these cases, the U.S. government took custody of Barry's child, Zach, labeling Barry and his wife as unfit parents due to the fact that they were teaching their children about the dangerous arms of the state. And due to the retaliation of the state, Barry and his family sought asylum in South America. He now trains search and rescue dogs all around the world and is a criminal defense expert witness who also vowed to never train narcotics dogs ever again. So
that's really good, damn. I mean, yeah, that little thing at the end is a big issue with narcotics dogs, because, you know, they're literally sniffing drugs or getting them, like, fucked up. But, yeah, no, for the whole, like, issue of or for the main topic of the video, this goes into an interesting thing, right? Obviously, there are dirty cops out there. Obviously, especially in today's current climate, there's a lot of, polarizing opinions about the police, to say the least. Now, this is where, you know, I'll put in my own little anecdote here. I've had pretty good experiences with the police. Now, as a white man, you know, that's obviously probably a factor, especially in New York. But, my experiences have been pretty okay. Some not so good, but mostly good. But this is where the sad part is of who the hell wants to become a cop, right? This is where, because the economy is getting fucked and everything, and the whole, like, thing is the cops are against us. This is where I really want to push this idea of not the entire group is against you. So again, when we go to war, if we go to war, or when we have been in war, what happens in the media is they villainize the whole other side, because we kind of have to, you know, be able to go to war, at least mentally, for some people. Because if we start seeing the enemy as human, we can't kill them. So, you know, not we don't do this, it's both sides who do this. We're not, like, the only evil ones here. But essentially, what ends up happening is we see the other side as, like, straight up evil. There's gonna be good and bad from both sides, and that's the biggest thing I want people to take away. It's that not everyone on the opposing side is evil. It's the same thing with cops. There's not all bad cops. Granted, there might be more good than bad in certain areas, but they're not all bad. But, you know, what the fuck are the cops supposed to do when they're taking a job where they fear for their lives, and everyone is almost against, well, not everyone, but most people are, like, against them? But this is another example of if you go against them, not even them, but the bigger man, right? Where this guy obviously like tried to expose dirty cops, and look what happened. The higher ups basically fucked with him. This is where, even though it's against the law, they're gonna do it anyway, because who's gonna stop the highest person in the room? And I'm not talking about with the Kush. This is like the crazy part, where they're not subject to the rules because they make the rules. So if you fuck with the person who makes the rules, no one's gonna enforce it on them because they literally make it. That's the scary part. So this guy honestly made the right plan and got the fuck out of here to another country. Good for him. Anyway, let's go next.
Canada's endless assault on the United States has continued today.
Ah, yes, look, it's like Trump again.
Possibly the most ridiculous way I could describe what's going on right now. But right now, 96 million Americans are under air quality alerts, and New York City currently has the worst air quality in the world. And this is the entire...
I thought we went over this already, but, you know, in case anyone forgot.
Eastern seaboard and parts of the Midwest are covered in smoke from Canadian wildfires. It's being advised for people to stay inside if possible, as well as for people to wear masks to shield themselves from the incredible amount of smoke, which likely means part of the American population are about to go outside and just start breathing in directly from the end of a tailpipe as a
which is what I did.
Form of protest. But as far as those wildfires, you have the U.S. offering support to put out the fires. And this, as stateside, flights are being delayed due to the lack of visibility. And all this is reportedly just the beginning of the Canadian wildfire season, so strap in.
This is insane. Now, granted, he says it was the beginning of the Canadian wildfire season, but I never saw it get worse than it did on this one day. Like, this day last month was when it was literally orange and it looked like a horror movie. It never got like as bad as that, and I'm kind of actually sad that it didn't, because I really like the way this looked. As bad as it was for the air quality, and you know, I heard the masks don't even help, but as bad as it was, I thought it was so cool looking. But anyway, yeah, the earth is burning, nature's fighting back. You know, natural disasters are happening. I'm pretty sure we're destined to get like a really, really, really big earthquake on the West Coast soon too. But don't quote me on that, but that might be in a future video. I might be spoiling us, but let's see.
Scientists created the world's first living robots, known as xenobots.
Xenobots!
Which can now reproduce. These tiny machines were developed using living frog cells and are less than a millimeter in width.
They're making the frogs again.
Xenobots can move towards a target, heal themselves when injured, and potentially carry medicine within a patient's body. They are not traditional robots or existing animal species, but represent a new class of programmable organisms. The xenobots were designed on a supercomputer and assembled and tested by biologists. These living machines, consisting of approximately 3,000 cells, form a sphere and are capable of replicating using their collective intelligence and plasticity. While the system typically dies out after one generation, an evolutionary algorithm guided by artificial intelligence allowed for the discovery of body shapes that facilitated more effective replication. The researchers assure that these living machines are strictly confined to the lab and can be easily controlled as they are biodegradable. Right now, xenobots are mostly used by scientists to understand how cells work together to form complex organisms. Their future application include cleaning the oceans from microplastics and delivering drugs to target cells in the body. Scientists can create xenobots using a patient's own cells, which helps avoid the problem of the patient's immune system attacking them. These personalized xenobots could potentially remove plaque from arteries and, with some extra cell types and bioengineering tricks, find and treat diseases more effectively.
Okay. Let me just say this about all this garbage. This seems like... So, this channel is well known. It even has the check mark, right? Your channel, I mean profile. Hashim Al-Ghali, right? Al-Ghali. Ghiali. I don't know how to say his name, but anyway. Hashim over here posts a lot of stuff relating to this, about the future, about technology, about all this nonsense, right? This is where the crazy part is. Where, like, again, we're living in a time where this doesn't seem real. The quote, like, oh, magic is undistinguishable from, like future technology is undistinguishable from magic, from, like, people who don't understand it. And it's honestly true. Like, bro, this shit is crazy. If this is true, which it might be, I honestly don't even know. I don't know if this channel, like, says everything that's real. But if xenobots are real, first of all, I don't believe it's only confined to the lab. The military probably has their hand up the ass of the scientists who are making this, and they're probably going to do it for war or some shit. But, like, this is insane. The sad part is, and again, this is where the dark dimension stuff comes in, where I think, as good as these things can be, right, as good as they could be for healthcare, for this, for that, realistically speaking, probably Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and all of them could only afford this shit, at least at first, right? And if, you know, later on down the line, it like trickles down to the normal people, we're probably going to have to pay an arm and a leg, go into debt, and then transfer that debt to our firstborn to be able to afford using these. So it's cool, but I am not looking forward to these for multiple reasons. But yeah, no, this is definitely crazy because, oh my god, just imagine if these were used for evil. Holy moly. Anyway, and look at the comment from fucking Batman too. We could save lives with this. Yeah, about that. And then he put a gun emoji. I'm glad a lot more people are getting like hesitant about all these like advancements, because they are advancements if used properly, just like the government systems. If used properly, they can help people. But if used improperly, we have what we have today. But, you know, definitely really interesting stuff. I'm just very scared for the future. Thank you, Hashim Al-Ghiali. Kylie Jenner.
You must return to the office or else. Workers, could you please return to office? You must come in the office 3 days a week, or every day you come into office, we'll donate $10 to charity. If you
How about they make it to where if you go into the office, they pay you more?
You do not, it will show up on your performance review. So what will it be? I might quit. Could you give me $10? Corporate America, return to office, take 28.
Bro, this shit's so funny. But yeah, so this is where I don't think the research and the studies are like too far into it. But from all the things we've seen, work from home and 4-day work week. Again, this is anecdotal. I don't have the proof in the pudding here for us. But from what I've seen, these things just improve productivity, they improve quality of life, they improve everything, both for the business and for the employee. Now, to a level where I think it's good, no, it could still definitely be improved, but it's definitely like both good, or it's better than it was going 5 days a week in office, having it be 4 days and remote. Like, it's just overall better. It's insane. Anyway, pretty good video. Let's go next.
Imagine you're a millionaire. Now, imagine you're a billionaire. At what point do you think you would lose your mind? Elon Musk is worth 188 billion and wants to put chips into people's brains. Jeff Bezos, 138 billion.
Okay, just to go over the thing with Elon putting chips in people's brain. He's been trying this. Now, again, I don't know how much misinformation there is about it, because you always have to question it. I'm going to keep repeating that because I want people to know it. But Elon Musk is like testing it on like chimps, I heard. And that shit has not been going well. And I think he's honestly like bribing or doing something with the FDA to like push it further into human testing. Because from the results we're getting from the chimps, this shit does not look safe and it does not look good. And there's no way it should get to human testing anytime soon. But I think somehow it is faster than it should. Because again, Elon is the richest man in the world, so he can influence things. But yeah, no, definitely we're getting into, again, more sci-fi shit. The other name for this episode, aside from the powder keg I might make it, is like we're living in the the future is now, old men. Like, I honestly can't believe some of the stuff that's coming out, where it makes me question, and again, I always bring this up, as always, of the exponential growth curve of once technology starts exploding, it's going to keep exploding in terms of how fast it's evolving, in terms of how fast we're advancing, right? Where I can only imagine, look what happened with AI. AI is going crazy, where again, like 6-7 months ago, it wasn't even on the radar. Now it's like the hot talk of the town. It's taking over people's jobs and shit. Imagine in 10 years where we're going to be if we're still here, if we haven't went to war, if we didn't starve ourselves from the economy like being shit. Like, it's about to be crazy.
Is hell-bent on going to the moon. Financial therapist Ed Combs puts it like this: to understand the psyche of the recklessly wealthy, we first have to understand that our sense of self changes according to the social context that we're in, including our income and wealth position. So
this is where I have this belief of you are a certain way down to your core. Some people call it a soul. I call it a core. At your core, you will react to things a certain way with a certain bias because that is your personality that you just have. Now, some people are more receptive or less receptive to their environment, but no matter what, you're receptive to it. It might be very little, it might be a lot, but at the end of the day, you are receptive to your environment, and your environment can change you. If you're very receptive to it, it could change you to be completely different than you usually are, or if you're more resilient to it, and depending on your personality, your environment can either like break you or it can make you. Now, this is where I think For some people, the environment shapes them extremely. For a lot of people, actually, because again, we're social creatures. And this is where I think the environment of rich people is just so bad because they are not taught basic human things that the rest of us are taught that I think are needed too. I think one of them is empathy and care. Because these people, to be rich, they're often encouraged in rich families to stay rich, and to do that, you have to do shady ass exploitative shit.
Says, think about social class as culture. Each culture has its own language, its own set of ideals and values. So as people move up the ranks in social class, say from a barely significant entrepreneur to the second wealthiest person in the world, their identity conforms as they change to meet the societal expectations of their new peers. But
that's true. It's not true for everyone, but most people do succumb to peer pressure, even if it is subconsciously.
What if this new cultural environment is vast and seemingly infinite? When most people daydream about being super rich, they envision a mansion, a few sports cars, and bougie vacations.
You know what I imagine? And this is what I'm going to say. I don't know if it's true, because you'll never know unless you're in the actual situation, right? But once my stream and like my YouTube pops off, and I go from like thousands of viewers to millions, then... and I get, you know, a shit ton of money. What am I going to realistically do with it? Honestly, not much. I don't really plan to have a big mansion. I don't really plan to do a lot of things that people would normally do. Maybe I'll get a car, but I don't know. This is where I honestly just want to have my own little place, and I want to stay the same. This is where I call myself like a mini Asmongold. I'm like Asmongold, and for those of you who know Duanel, I'm like a mix of them. A mix of Asmongold and Donal from Twitch. Where, you know, I'm really just going to stay the same, and I'm going to be crazy. Because I already think I'm a little crazy. I suppress it for the videos and for the stream at Twitch TV slash Tecnics channel for sure. Because I don't want to be on no list. But, excuse me. Yeah, definitely not going to go crazy like people would do here. Like, the bougie vacation, sure. Maybe I'd buy, like, more food for sure. But in terms of, like, buying a big-ass mansion and shit, probably not.
Dr. Tracy Williams says that the dopamine rush that we might get from a no-expense-spared weekend in Vegas is a drop in the ocean to someone who has virtually unlimited resources. Financial therapist Amanda Clayman says, when we're talking about wealth at that level, we're talking about controlling reality. Clayman
honestly, like, they're 100% right here. Like, the rich people are so fucking rich, they can do whatever they want, because we already see them, like, subverting the rules with Epstein Island, so...
For a majority of us, economic boundaries create a rigid order to what we can conceivably do in our lifetime. But the ultra-wealthy are inundated with unlimited choice.
Yeah, so... unlimited choice based on the technological limitations, which already they're pushing. Because look at Elon. He's pushing the technological limitations, not only of space travel, but also of, like, bioengineering with the whole chips he wants to put in our brain.
Why not distract yourself with a weekend getaway to the moon? Does that make billionaire dumb shit part and parcel of financial gain? Not exactly. Entrepreneur David Kidder said that money is a magnifier for what's underlying psychologically. If we're unable to validate ourselves through love and self-acceptance, we attempt to fill that void with accolades and material gain.
And that's what capitalism teaches us. If you don't have friends, get more money and buy more things. You'll feel better. In the short term.
No matter how many Forbes lists, businesses, or Lambos the mega rich acquire, deep down what they're really searching for, belonging. As it turns out, rich people are just people. Dr. Williams says you can't buy your way out of flaws, and you also can't buy the world's validation.
Well, you could buy some of it, not all of it.
Boy, will these billionaires try. That said, prob's best to stick to a cool 5 mil if you don't want to move into rearranging the world with your mind territory.
So this is where I've said this before as well. Once you're rich, you're kind of divorced from society. You're separate from it. You become detached from it. Now, this is where it's in part from how, you know, crazy you can get. Because once you give someone basically a yes button where no matter like what they want, they can get it. You know, obviously people are going to get corrupted by that. But it's also other people that end up having the rich people go crazy too. When people know you're rich, they often hit you up. Like, you know, rappers rap about it all the time. Oh, you didn't used to fuck with me, but when I got the bag, you started hitting my phone up like crazy, right? This is where, once you get money, you have to question people's intentions. And this is the sad part of, you know, not having money, or no, having money isn't everything, not having it is. Because people, you know, are starving out here. The economy's bad and stuff. So they're trying their best to live whatever the way they can. And whether that's hitting you up for some money if you're rich, you know, who knows? But at that point, you always question it, and they're in a way divorcing you because you're always questioning your relationships. Do they like you for you, or do they like you because you're rich? It's a big question. It's a big, big question. Anyway, as the show's, getting rich is fucked, both in good ways and in bad ways. But anyway, nice video. Let's go next.
Someone just asked...
Oh my god, it's so loud.
...autonomous AI to destroy humanity. And this is what happened. The AI, fittingly named Chaos GPT, was even placed in...
What the fuck does GPT mean? I actually don't understand what it means. And like, we have all these different GPTs now, like one to make code, one to answer your questions, one to, I guess, cause fucking chaos. Like, are we gonna have a sex GPT soon that's gonna like sexually like chat with us? It's gonna sext us?
It's in continuous mode, which prompted a danger warning saying that it may cause the AI to run forever and carry out actions that one would not normally authorize. Bloody great start. But what's even more terrifying given what's happening in the world right now, the first thing that it started doing was researching nuclear weapons, implying that the easiest way for humanity to go extinct is to incite nuclear war. I think our presidents are doing a pretty good job at that already, but...
And again, I always put forth the question of what if we use the AI voices that eventually get so good to where we like have Putin saying in the AI voice that we can't distinguish is real or not, launch nukes on the United States in one day. Like, you know, what do we do then? How do we know? Because if we call them and they say they're not doing it, we might think they're lying. And if they say they are doing it, they got some fucking balls on them.
Thanks. Once the AI concluded that a Soviet Union nuclear device is the most destructive weapon ever detonated, it started on its next plan, trying to get humans to join its cause. It seemed to think that...
And you know what the scary part is? There's definitely some who would.
Twitter was the social platform of choice for this, and it posted calling humans selfish and destructive creatures and
not wrong.
Committed to eliminating us all. Good luck with only 2 likes, you loser. It then attempted to recruit other AI agents and even devised a plan to deceive them to ignore their peaceful program. And thankfully for us, that's when the worrying demonstration was ended.
See, this was a demonstration, but imagine a bad actor gets his hands on this garbage in the future, when it could actually do more. This comment here from Mr. Star, people are playing with fire, I couldn't agree more. Like, that's all of what I think AI is. AI, I think, is just playing with fire. And a lot of it is us getting burned, and only in the light dimension will it actually help us in, like, a real way. But the best comment here is definitely from Real. Excuse me. Tell Chat GPT to stop Chaos GPT. That's how we beat them. We just use, like, the better AI. But anyway, crazy ass shit. Crazy ass shit that's very scary for the future when this shit can actually hack things. Anyway, let's keep going.
Every day, America inches more and more towards becoming a full-on renter nation. And
Homelessness.
Now, you'll see plenty of people saying it's a terrible time to buy a house in America.
I remember what I always say. It's not just a renter nation, it's an in-debt nation too. Because now people can't even live without debt. They're in debt their whole lives, and they're trying to make it, them as in either the government or the people in power, are trying to make it so you could transfer your debt to your firstborn child.
Actually, because of that,
I sound like a fucking conspiracy theorist like Alex Jones. Tori.
Built-to-rent houses are being built across the country. But also, one of the biggest problems with renting is the rent itself. I think we're all aware that as time goes on, rent goes up. But the rates and comparisons are key here. With
it always is going to go back to what's the wage, and then how much is X thing increasing and the wage isn't.
These analytics reporting that rent has increased by 134.9% since 1999, but income has only increased by 76.8%. Meaning that today, the median renter would need to pay 29.6% of their monthly income on rent alone in the first months of 2023. And all this is a recent Redfin report said that there are only 4 major cities where a typical house has a lower mortgage than cost of rent, right? And that's connected to the rising interest rates.
This is the big thing I actually got taught, and that I said in a previous episode too. If you can, just think about this logically, right? If you can, you should always buy a house with a mortgage. Obviously, it's easier said than done because you need the initial capital investment for the down payment. But if you can, right, always go for a mortgage, even though you're going to end up paying more than double what the house actually is. Because you're going to be paying that in rent anyway, and you're going to have nothing to show for it. So let's say you rent for 30 years and you buy a mortgage for 30 years, right? Or you buy a house and you get a mortgage, rather. If you're renting for 30 years, after 30 years, they could kick you out on your ass and you have nothing. After 30 years of paying a mortgage, you own the house, you could sell it to make a profit or do whatever the fuck you want, and it's harder to kick you out. They still could, but it's harder. So at that point, why would you not go for a mortgage? Even if a mortgage is a little bit more, and you know, I say a little bit more as if paying that little bit more is easy when we can't pay for anything. But again, for those who can, they definitely should. If you can afford rent and you can afford a mortgage, go for the mortgage, just get the house.
Which is also why you have a lot of people not selling their homes right now and instead being interested in renting. Let's say you buy $1 million house, you put $200,000 down, right? You have an $800,000 mortgage. If you got that at a 3% rate, you are paying $4,100.
A 3% rate, by the way, is very unrealistic. I still think the rate is a little above 8%. So almost triple this.
$160 a month. But if you did that same thing at a 6.5% rate, you are looking at a monthly payment of $5,844. So that's why you have so many people saying like, oh, I feel like I have golden handcuffs on. But if I now rent this house out in a world where 6.5% is what's expected, a person can probably make a nice profit, even though, as is often the case, the person most dumped on is the renter.
Yep, that's why you should never rent. You should always try and own. But anyway, more proof that rent and stuff and housing is getting fucked. A basic need that we can easily solve if we wanted to. It's not a question of can we solve it, it's a question of do we want to at this point? And the answer is no, because then how would people make their money? And that's why I own stock in AMT and PSA, which are real estate people. Real estate conglomerates, I believe. Next.
During my meeting with Oda a few
Oh my Jesus Christ. Why did I send this to myself?
hours ago, I managed to hack into his desktop and explore his hidden folders while he briefly stepped out to grab some coffee.
What the fuck?
Surprisingly, his password was, "The One Piece is real."
Whoa.
This triggered a memory of Queen Elizabeth's final words.
The One Piece is real.
Oh shit, I remember
This gave
that.
me an eerie sensation on my calves. She was undoubtedly the most formidable user of Conqueror's Hockey, possessing the extraordinary Monarchy Hockey.
Monarchy Hockey?
Anyways, within these hidden folders, I discovered an abundance of information. Firstly, King Charles has finally awakened his royal hockey and is now on par with Arlong on land.
Oh,
he also
shit.
possesses Za Kinga.
Oh my god.
Capable of stopping time for a whole minute. Secondly, it seems that Elon Musk has arranged a training session with Oda on June 5th to acquire alien hockey, providing further confirmation of his extraterrestrial nature. However, it was at this very moment that I realized the information contained within the folders was neither in English nor Japanese. Instead, it was in an ancient language resembling the poneglyphs.
What?
This stirred up such intense emotions that it brought tears to my eyes, along with the unsettling sensation of a lump lodged in my throat. Why am I able to read poneglyphs? Who exactly am I? During my...
Okay. So again, like I've said, I sent these to myself a long time ago. So I don't fully remember what was going through my head when I sent this to myself. If I had to guess, I could think of 3 possible reasons why I sent this insanity to myself. Number 1, this was a mistake and I was sending it to my friends and I accidentally clicked my account here. Number 2, I did it to lighten the mood to try and be funny, but people would have to know One Piece, and I'm assuming the thousands of fans that watch the economy shit itself and things go wrong aren't necessarily into anime, so I don't know if that was my intention, if that was my thought process back then. And then the third option is maybe I'm trying to show how AI is, again, mimicking people's voices. Like we saw Queen Elizabeth's final words be, you know, the One Piece is real, I believe. So again, you know, that sounded like her. For all intents and purposes, that could have been her last words. I honestly don't know. But yeah, no, pretty crazy stuff. So I guess whichever of those possibilities you like of why I sent the video to myself, you know, I guess comment it below or something. Yeah, I honestly have no clue why I sent this to myself. Anyway, let's keep going.
Just yesterday, AI experts band together to
May 31st, by the way, still a month behind.
To a dire warning, saying artificial intelligence models could soon be smarter and more powerful than us, and it's time to impose limits to ensure they don't take control over humans or destroy the world.
And remember, the guy who made ChatGPT, who's saying more restrictions, secretly lobbied the UK government or EU government to get less restrictions on his one.
Quote, a statement made through the Center for AI Safety says, quote,
that's the
mitigating
guy.
the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority alongside other societal scale risks such as pandemics and nuclear war. Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, the Microsoft-backed AI research lab that's...
Oh, no, never mind. It's not ChatGPT. It's OpenAI.
Behind ChatGPT.
Oh, never mind. It's the same shit. I don't know what I'm saying.
And so-called godfather of AI, who recently left Google, along with Geoffrey Hinton, were among the hundreds of leading figures who signed and endorsed the statement. In a separate statement...
Yeah, and then, again, lobbied the government.
...published in March and now signed by more than 30,000 tech executives and researchers, called for a 6-month pause on the training of AI systems, more powerful than ChatGPT-4, the latest version of the ChatGPT chatbot. That open letter says, advanced AI could represent a profound change in the history of life on Earth.
Yeah, and it could be a good one, but again, it's probably going to be bad.
And should be planned for and managed with commensurate care and resources. The idea of a 6-month hold on development while lawmakers catch up seems to be the most common suggestion.
Yeah, are they going to catch up with how slow law moves? I don't think 6 months is enough, because they need 6 months to even like start thinking about something. Look how close we get to fucking defaulting.
However, without anything like that in place, none of them want to pause and potentially be left behind and see their market share dramatically diluted. So we are running full steam ahead until told otherwise, or until something bad happens.
Ooh, and we all know it's going to be until something bad happens. But as Mr. Eric here in the comments says, isn't it obvious why Sam Altman wants restrictions to be put in place? OpenAI wants to restrict competition and have a monopoly on AI. And of course, again, they're doing that. And this is honestly makes sense because, again, you know, Sam Altman got exposed for calling for more restrictions, which would quote unquote affect his as well as everyone else's. But he was secretly, like I said before, lobbying for less restrictions only on ChatGPT. So more fucked up shit, more dark dimension. Let's keep going.
A few days ago, the California Senate passed a bill to make it illegal for store employees to confront shoplifters.
So this is where I don't know if it's illegal, but it's definitely not the right way to do things. Now, when I say the right way to do things, I mean according to like the employer's like guidelines, where you can get fired if you stop someone shoplifting. Now, I don't think it's against the law, at least yet, but I don't know.
Meanwhile, San Francisco headquartered Old Navy announced it is closing its San Francisco flagship, joining Walgreens, T-Mobile, Whole Foods, Amazon Go, and Nordstrom's in fleeing the city. Asked why Old Navy was leaving its hometown.
Its fucking hometown.
One store manager said shoplifters hit his store, quote, at least 14 times a day. We were hit 22 times in the last 2 days. At this point, stores in downtown San Francisco are just waiting until their lease is up and then they are gone, which sucks if you're a chain store. It really sucks if you're a mom and pop with your life savings at stake.
Yeah, like the chain stores, it's whatever. They're gonna still live because they have stuff everywhere. But the mom and pop stores are literally fucked. They're gonna join the fucking homeless people in like the 10-block long like refuge that they're then going to push and move somewhere else.
Adding fuel to the fire, one of California's largest insurers, State Farm, last week announced it's exiting the entire state for business and property insurance, joining insurance giant Allstate, which already left 6 months ago. State Farm cited the, quote, challenging reinsurance market, meaning they can't get anybody to insure their California policies. This means thousands of Californians are now going without insurance, going naked in the industry lingo. Note, this locks you in. You can't sell your house since most banks won't write a mortgage on an uninsurable property.
So this is where I honestly question things, right? Because everyone's leaving this area, everyone's leaving the San Francisco area, that's going to make the place worse, which is going to make more people leave, which is going to make the place worse, and it's going to be a downward slope. What the, like, are we just going to go into like a dystopian future where everything is like Detroit? Where we're gonna have places that are just centralized like little Detroits? Like, bro, this seems so bad. This is like fucking, oh my god, what was that movie? What was that movie where like everything was like fucked and there was poverty? We'll just call it cyberpunk. Are things gonna end up like cyberpunk?
Fortunately, the city of San Francisco is on the job. They just released a glitzy $6 million tourism campaign.
Oh yeah, let's not fix anything. Let's just bring new people in. Let's have new people come in from other countries and spend money on us. on like the shithead places that are getting robbed 22 times in 2 days.
Literally the next day, the two biggest hotels in the city went bust.
Oh.
Citing, quote, street conditions, almost as if they didn't think the tourism campaign would do anything. Beyond hotels, the newspaper Guardian recently wrote about, quote, empty skyscrapers in San Francisco.
Yes, empty skyscrapers. You know what that reminds me of? New York with its empty buildings. Do you know why? Because no one wants to take an actual reasonable amount for rent. They want to have the rent be some god unknown ridiculous thing that no one can afford except rich people. But rich people are fucking cheap too, so the rich people don't even want to do it. It's like, bro, again, these places are just going to become little centralized Detroits. Like, I swear to God, there's no way. Like, there's actually no way, like, things are going to end out good here. Everything is just so bad, and it's just getting worse. This is fucking sad, man.
While the main commercial drag, Market Street, is festooned with for sale or lease signs. San Fran's office vacancy rate has now hit 31%. Pre-pandemic, it was 4%.
Yeah, but now there's also, like, work from home and shit, so that might not be entirely accurate.
A recent study from Berkeley found cell phone traffic is actually down 70% since pre-pandemic. Note that downtown accounts for 75% of the city's tax base, almost half of sales tax, and 95% of business tax revenue.
Wow.
So if downtown becomes a ghost town, San Francisco runs out of money.
And then things get even worse.
It defunds the police whether it wants to or not.
Bruh.
By the way, the city's solution is not to bring people back. It's to convert downtown office buildings to, wait for it, public housing. Over 11,000 units, according to one plan, which should do wonders for bringing back that downtown tax base.
Yeah, let's get rid of all the office space and just give it to the vagrants. What the fuck?
In fact, one local activist group, Shaping San Francisco, wants to skip the humans altogether and literally knock down these skyscrapers. Deconstruction, they call it, since tearing things down is a bit of a fetish on the left. A 2021 paper by a trio of business professors predicted a post-COVID urban doom loop for U.S. cities.
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like a legit loop.
As businesses leave, driving more crime on empty streets and less tax revenue to hire police to deal with it. It turns out cities didn't have to wait for the doom loop. They're making it themselves. On the bright side, urban voters who keep electing these clowns are the first...
This is the best quote of this whole thing. Urban voters who are electing these clowns. This is the part I don't understand, and we've shown it before in a previous episode. Whether you elect someone who says they're going to do something or not, they end up just doing what the rich want anyway, so does it really matter who we elect? Number one. But number two, we end up electing the people who end up fucking us. Again! Like, we re-elect them. How does Mitch McConnell keep getting re-elected? How does Nancy Pelosi keep getting re-elected? I don't understand. Of course, maybe they don't even get re-elected. Maybe once they're in, they're just in, but I don't know. I don't know the way our government works, and I don't want to know. The more you get into that rabbit hole, the more upset you're going to get.
To feel the...
And the more, like, politically charged you're going to get.
Pain. Some of them are waking up, snapping out of their warm utopias to demand city officials actually arrest criminals and clear out open-air drug markets. Sadly, they are not waking up fast enough, going by recent elections in Chicago and New York.
Oh yeah, New York, baby, NYC. We built different. Tim's.
So expect more dying cities, more failed businesses, more property crashes, bankrupt hotels, and if they keep going, more deconstructed cities.
Yes. So you might be wondering why I'm cheering these things on. Like I keep saying, I'm a proponent. I don't want these things to happen, but the only way change is going to happen is if a lot of shit gets fucked up. It's going to get worse before it's ever going to get better, and it needs to get really bad for it to actually get better. It can't get incrementally bad for some people. It needs to go really bad for a lot of people. And once it hits a certain critical level, which is, when the powder keg explodes, then people are going to demand, not even demand change, they're going to make change happen, or we're going to die trying. And that's when things are either going to change, or there's going to be a massive, I don't want to say genocide, but a big culling of the rich to the poor. Who knows which one?
Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.
Cool. Wait, is there more here? Okay, no, there's no more here. Yeah, this is fucking crazy. Like, it's just, again, an endless loop of bad. Like, there's so many episode titles I have for this one. An Endless Loop of Bad, The Powder Keg, and I honestly forgot the other one, but it doesn't even matter. I'm probably just gonna name this shit The Powder Keg. Let's keep going.
Don't take this the wrong way. What France is doing is tight, but activism isn't always sexy.
I mean, hey, what they're doing isn't sexy. It's fucking needed, though. But this quote right here is what I always ask. How can we fight people who have all the money, all the resources? Back in the day, ironically enough, at the same time when we couldn't solve the problems yet, we literally couldn't. Like the problem of, if there's not a lot of food, if people aren't eating, there literally wasn't enough food. Once we were able to solve that problem, it became this issue of, okay, now people have too much control, they have too much power. Even if we do rebel, can we even make a dent at this point? And that is one of the big questions I always ask. Is it too late if we rebel? Do the rich people, do the upper elites have too much power to where even if we rebel, I mean, obviously in the short term they might win, but in the long term they fuck themselves, because again, just look at Florida. They need people who are willing to do the shit that they don't want to.
Making a difference is not always pitchforks and torches. You can't get out your pitchfork to protest that big money owns the baby formula aisle and is putting poison in our baby food. How are you going to protest the fact that private equity and corporations have bought almost every brand of pet food in the country? Like, where do you take your pitchforks to protest giant corporations and private equity with literal buildings of money? Just for scale here, you see these numbers? That's how much money each of these towers represents. Notice that each one is made out of individual pallets of money that look like that. Data from 2005, it would have taken the average American 3,500 years to make a single pallet of money. So look again. Each of those little cubes represents 3,500 years of work for the average American. And as of 2020, private equity collectively had $2.5 trillion of uncalled capital, sometimes referred to as dry powder, i.e. money ready to invest in the market. That means private equity has literally buildings worth of money ready to buy up small businesses and to lobby the government. What France is doing is great when you need to protest your government, but where do you take your pitchforks when you need to protest big money? Well, I'm gonna show you, and it's not gonna be sexy. In 2023, a lot of real effective activism actually looks like this. Let me explain. Early on when I was growing this TikTok account, one of my followers connected me to this woman, Tiffany Cianci. Tiffany ran a small business through a franchise where she had a gym for small kids, and her company was bought out by private equity. Of course. Not actually by ExxonMobil, but by private equity with their giant towers of money. It's something of a trend of private equity. Turns out private equity is trying to push a bill through right now to get the rules to stay in their favor. But Ian, private equity is just some dude that's been really successful at business. They should be great at running businesses. Yeah, they might be good at making money, but they're not the people we want running our world. When we're talking about private equity, we're talking about people like Blackstone, who's been buying up single-family homes and making the prices completely unaffordable for all of us. We're talking about human trash, like Leon Black, who founded Apollo Global Management. I'm talking this guy, who was one of Jeffrey Epstein's most loyal clients for decades. The guy who met with Epstein.
He looks like he eats children.
Literally hundreds of times, and then was convicted of a crime that I'm not supposed to say the name of on this app towards a woman who was underage. I'm sure he only did it once, obviously. These are the types of people that have $2.5 trillion of dry powder ready to buy up businesses in the market.
Oh my God, man. It's so sad because when you grow up, right, you think like the people who are good, the people who are nice, the people who are, for lack of a better word, righteous, are going to be the ones on top, the ones leading the world, the ones in the good spots. But as I grew up, I realized it was the exact opposite. It was the exact opposite. All the people at the top are fucking pieces of trash, vile scumbags who do shady shit at best and really fucked up shit at worst that we probably just don't know about. And it's like, these are the people in power. These are the people just having fun, not needing to worry about if they can eat or not, if they can afford to live or not, if they'll have a roof over their head. It's like, bro, this world, and this actually has been said to me as a child, but I never really understood the full force of it. This world is so unfair. It's so unfair, it is fucking ridiculous, and it's a little disgusting. But like, bro, these people who are serial rapists, who do things with children, who do this, who do that, like, these are the people who have all this money and can do whatever the fuck they want. It doesn't make any sense. It's not fair. It's not fair. Anyway,
we can't fight them with pitchforks, but we can fight them.
They can
Political
buy their own
activism
armies.
is fully alive and possible in 2023, but it's not sexy. So here's a primer on one of the most common and accessible ways for common people like you and me to fight against big money in a meaningful way. Tiffany made it easy for us.
How?
In her link tree, we can go to the FTC website and leave a comment on the legislation that they're about to pass this Thursday, i.e. in 2 days.
I feel like these comments will do nothing.
She's also written some sample letters that we can copy and paste into these forms or send by mail in order to make our voices heard. So
See, again, this is where I'm going to go back to the things we reacted on to a previous episode of when we hire people, what do they do in terms of what their voters want? Very little. They do what the rich people want. So our voices don't even really matter unless it's the real majority.
This morning I went to that link and I copied the first paragraph of one of her pre-written letters, dropped it into the comment box on regulations.gov, which I accessed right here. Then I decided to put my money where my mouth was, and I actually went and got a goddamn letter and a stamp and wrote with my own hands the address, printed out a letter that Tiffany had helped us write. I had changed a few of the paragraphs to add my own personal concerns and mailed this sucker off to the FTC.
You know what's so crazy? Now, this is where, like, you know, the millennials and stuff make fun of us, and the boomers especially make fun of us. They make fun of the millennials too, but the Gen Zers mainly. Where we don't know how to do anything, we don't know how to change the tire, do this, do that, which is true. But, you know, one of the things anecdotally with me that kind of proves this is before I had my current job, right? I'm 25. I got this job when I was 24. Before I had my current job as the mailroom clerk, I did not know how to send a letter. I did not know what certified mail was. I didn't know all these basic things that people would know. Now, granted, I attribute a part of that to technology, for good or for bad, right? Because technology is connecting us in certain ways, but making us more isolated in a lot of others. Where we don't really need to mail stuff. If you're like a young guy like me, we'll just email it to you. We won't mail it snail mail, because why the fuck would we do that? So again, this is where, like, it's sad to say, but I did not know how to do these basic things, albeit partly because of technology. But you know, it's like the millennials and the boomers, when they make fun of us for not knowing basic shit, they're not entirely wrong.
I'll tell you a funny secret that all the people in our generation don't really think about. If you grew up with the internet, you understand the power of crowdsourcing, and you understand how many voices we all have. You understand.
And you know what else I understand? How divided the internet is. How much we're assholes and we don't really care. Like, you'll have someone who will tell you to try and do something, and just because they told you to try and do something, you will actively go against them. Not because you don't believe in what they're doing or because you hate what they're doing, just because they told you to do something and you don't like them now. Like, it's actually insane. The internet shows you some pretty fucking mental people. And so do video games, honestly, too.
The comment section that has 30,000 comments in it. That's not abnormal for us. But let me tell you, the old folks running the FTC and the SEC and the other regulatory organizations have no idea what it means to receive 10,000 comment letters.
Whoa.
They receive like 200 tops.
No
They
way.
are so not ready for the internet to actually do things.
Yeah,
like
and guess
this.
what? And guess what? The internet probably didn't do things, because you know how this guy said, like, 30,000 comments on his videos? He only got like 5K on this one.
To tell them what we actually want in our world. Perhaps the time for pitchforks and torches will come, and when it does...
It will. It has to, and it will. I'm not advocating for it, by the way.
I'm working out. I'm ready. So you keep...
I am too, baby. I'm working on 3 hours of sleep, no food, and exercise every day.
Come on, scroll.
And depression.
On TikTok if you want. That's all cool. Or, if you want to actually make a difference in this world, you can start to get involved with causes that care. You could go to Tiffany's profile and follow the steps that I just followed. You could find a cause that feels meaningful to you and send your own comment letters. You ever feel like nothing's ever happening and nothing will ever change and we're all just dumb Americans sitting on our couches?
Oh yes, I feel like that a lot.
This is here to remind you that you're one of those people.
Whoa. I am. Yeah, pretty sad shit. The sad part is, like I said, it might be too late, and even if we tell the government what to do, they only really listen to the rich people, as we've shown. And a lot of people probably won't even do anything. Again, there's only 5,000 comments here, not the 30K he said, so. And it's been about a month, so I'm assuming whatever it's going to get it already got the majority of it. Anyway, let's keep going.
Yeah, you know what's crazy about this
What?
is that the way
Oh, look, they're talking about the banks, which is what I talked about.
That Chase, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America have positioned their savings accounts is just wild.
Oh, let's hear
this. So check out
this.
Bank of America. Standard pricing. They'll pay 0.01%.
Look at this. Look at this. And remember, right? Remember, everyone, the statistics we always go over. 60% at least of Americans don't even have $1,000. So if your account balance is less than 2,500, you get 0.1. If it's above 2,500, you get the same damn thing.
Percent on your money in your savings account. But Platinum honors 0.04%. Diamond. Wow, Diamond tier gets you 0.04%, and Diamond honors
The same thing. So again, this is where I question, right? They like to call it all these silly, stupid names. Oh, Diamond honors 0.4%. Capital One literally gives you like 4.15%. At that point, what the fuck is that the equivalent of Chase? Like Ultra Giga Omega Rich Blackstone Ultra Stone freaking polymerization like carbon dioxide tier? Like that would be the equivalent of a basic Capital One account that you could get. And it doesn't charge you anything. It has no minimums, has no fees. Pretty much, at least unless you take out like more than 6 times a month. But with Chase, they have minimums you have to have in your account. Capital One doesn't have that, and they give you like 4.10, 4.15 APY a year. This place gives you 0.4 if you're in the Diamond Honors level. Like, what the hell?
This is Wells Fargo. If you have $99,999, you can get 0.25%.
Oh.
And then it bumps up to 1.01% if you have over $100,000 in your Wells Fargo savings account. Wow. And here's Chase at 0.01% for all balances.
Again, Capital One gives you 4 point something.
Please get yourself a high yield savings account. We've done a TikTok labeling the best high yield savings accounts. Yeah, you know what's crazy.
I don't know why the video cut off there, but a lot of stuff, I question whether it's real or not, whether it's fake. Going over the banking stuff, this is stuff, and I'm not a corporate shill, at least not yet. They haven't found out yet, and they haven't sponsored me. So this is where you can tell what I'm saying is true. I've tested this. I do this myself. The bank accounts at Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo are ass. The other bank accounts, I will literally look it up for people right now so they could get it through their heads. Do not go with these stupid big banks. Look, Capital One interest rate for a basic saving account. Ready? A 360, not even checking. Where's the saving? High yield savings. Ready? 360 performance savings. 4.15. It's 4.15%. Do yourself a favor, make a savings account with Capital One. You could do it online. You don't even need a branch. And if you have Chase, you could still use Chase because that's what I do. You could just transfer it between the banks. So let's say there's a Chase near you. You could put the money in the Chase near you, and then you could just transfer to Capital One through Chase. Like, there's no excuse. And this is where, again, it goes into just people are ignorant. And that's not a bad thing. It is what it is. But this is where people need to learn this is so much better. Do not go with these shithead big banks. Which is surprising how Capital One isn't one.
Crazy about.
But anyway, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Let's go next.
Our first Gen Z
Actually, before we go next, let's just focus on this comment here. Savings, such a quaint concept. I do love science fiction because, like we said before, over 60% of Americans don't have over $1,000. So,
our first Gen Z representative in the House,
Gen Z, rise up.
Maxwell Frost showcased some of his best stuff yet on the House floor today.
This is where I actually do remember this video of all the things I've sent myself. I actually do remember this one. This is where this is a ray of shining hope in the dark dimension. One of the few rays of shining hope. Because my generation, like I said, right? One of two things is going to happen with my generation. We're either going to change things or we're going to complain and bitch and moan until they offer us money and we become evil. We're either gonna become evil, gonna become corrupt by, getting bribed, or we're gonna solve the issue. I honestly think one of the two is gonna happen.
I rise in opposition to this resolution. And I want to say something. My Republican colleagues are pushing a narrative that student debt relief is unfair. And to my colleagues, I agree with you. I agree that what's going on is unfair.
It is.
Folks who paid off their debt, the fact that they had to have it in the first place is unfair. The fact that students still have to take out crushing student debt just to get a college education.
That doesn't even pay them well and follows them for the rest of their life.
That is unfair. And if we legislated using the logic that you bring to this issue here today, women and black folks wouldn't have the right to vote because it would be unfair to those who never got to vote before them.
That is one of the biggest... Oh my god. The thing he just did is so good. Oh, it's unfair because the people before them didn't get it? Or because, the people before them, never had it? No, then no one should ever be able to vote then. Like, what the hell? That's so good. Dude, this guy's going crazy. Yo, my boy Maxwell.
See, if we legislated using your logic, that because there was an injustice, we can't fix it because it's unfair to those who never had it fixed.
Yeah, like, what the hell is that logic?
Means we would never progress on any issue in
Yo,
this country.
Maxwell is
Why do you
preaching.
bring that bigoted logic
Ooh.
to this issue as it relates to students, but not any other issue?
Our first gen...
Yo, ray of shining hope. I really hope he doesn't get killed, and I really hope there's more like him. Gen Z needs to fucking get into the government, man. Get the dinosaurs out, because the dinosaurs don't even know how to use the computers right. We're connected. We know how to use computers. We know what's going on in society. Whether we can fix it, I don't know. But we have the best shot of doing it out of everyone else, because everyone else is too old, too biased, too bought out. At least we have the next best shot. Like I said before, until we get bought out too. But yeah, not too depressing here. Actually pretty good. A ray of hope. Ray of hope. Let's go next.
One of the biggest scams in history is finally coming to an end.
Oh,
and while
student debt?
America has seen its fair share of scams over the years, from Enron to Bernie Madoff to Theranos, and most recently FTX. None of those could even hold a candle to the scam that is Black Lives Matter. BLM occupied a position of power and cultural relevance that the world's greatest con artists could only dream of. But despite raking in nearly $200 million just in the last couple of years, Black Lives Matter is now on the verge of bankruptcy. So where did all that money go? Well, shocker alert, it didn't go to improving the lives of black people.
So this is where the sad part comes in, right? Now, I don't know if it's necessarily right for me to be talking about this, and this is where a lot of the culture now has become very against me. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. I don't think I can know as a white person, obviously. But yeah, I'm very apprehensive to even touch this topic, but I do feel it needs to be touched on. And, of the thousands and thousands of fans out there that sometimes only watch me, I owe it to them to say this, because they're not going to hear it from anyone else. This is where, for the longest time when I was in college, there's still people like this, I'm not saying they're gone, but there are people who would live, sweat, and breathe Black Lives Matter. Excuse me. Now, I'm of the belief, maybe wrongly so, some people will get angry at this, I'm of the belief that every life matters. I very much try not to look at skin color, I look at the actions of a person, right? Now, those actions could obviously be influenced by the past and stuff, but ultimately, I look at the actions of a person, not their skin color, right? And Black Lives Matter was very much just, they had a great message, because I actually did a report on them in college. In college, they kind of forced us to research Black Lives Matter, ironically enough, for my English class of all things. For my intro English class, English 101. Or 100, I forgot. But, they made us research Black Lives Matter, and the message they had was, it wasn't necessarily evil or anything. It was like, okay, but what about all lives matter? Are you only for black people? And they're like, yeah, other people have their struggles, we have ours, we gotta focus on our own before we can help everyone. Now, that's not necessarily wrong, I don't disagree with that, but I'm more of the opinion of, we should all help each other. Like, no matter who you are, help each other, right? Your problem is your problem, sure, but other people could definitely help you with it. I believe. Unless you're of the mentality of, certain people can't touch anything because they'll ruin it, then, teach their own. But overall, I heard a lot of bad things about Black Lives Matter, but I was too scared to criticize it, again, because of my skin color. where people would just say, oh, you're just a racist or whatever. But as it's coming out now, assuming this is real, because again, this could be fake, it's the internet. Assuming this is real, this is fucked. Like, this is actually so fucked. Like, let's just keep watching.
It didn't even go to the purported victims that BLM promised to help out, as Breonna Taylor's mom made clear when she called BLM a fraud back in 2021. Instead, the money that BLM raised went straight to the founder, Patrisse Cullors. You see, as it turns out, Patrisse, who is a self-described Marxist.
Wow, I'm surprised that did not get Black Lives Matter initially just in the dirt. The fact that she's a Marxist. To be that in the United States and to not have your, like, whole organization just, like, blacklisted is insane. Especially by the government. I thought the government would have shut this thing down.
Apparently loves the high life, a common theme that we've seen with basically every single communist leader ever. And so she used those BLM donations, which were raised under the pretense of fighting capitalism and empowering black people, to enrich herself and to buy herself millions of dollars worth of property in some of the whitest communities that she could find.
Bruh. See, the only argument I guess she could make at that point is, oh, I'm trying to steal it back from the white man. That's like what I could see she might say, but yeah, no, I don't know if this guy is, like, you know, telling the truth. Again, we don't have the Carfax, and he's not linking to any, like, source or anything. But, you know, people could say anything on the internet, so I don't want to put too much discussion into this. But, again, if it's true, which it very well could be, because I believe any political leader, or any leader of any organization is probably corrupt in some way, I wouldn't be too surprised. It's just a shame, man. It's just a shame. Black people, as well as every people, should be equal, and we should all help each other. There's no difference between us. We're all people. You know, the only people we should realistically be fighting is the rich, and we shouldn't even fight them. We should just help them get back down to realistic level in society and learn how to not, you know, exploit us and not take the exploitation either. Because again, we do have the numbers over them, and even if they can raise us down in the short term, they need us for the long term. There's no way they're going to survive without us in the long term. So I'm pretty sure they know that too. But anyway, very nice video. Let's go next.
One of the most bizarre studies about how to manipulate people was published in 1999. Scientists placed subjects at the end of a long hall and gave them a piece of paper with a number on it.
I love this
Some of the
shit.
numbers only were 2 digits long. Others, as many as 7.
Like
Were told to memorize the number and then walk to the other end of the hall and write it down on a sheet of paper. Scientists congratulated them on how well they could remember the number and told them that it would take them a little while to tally up the results. And while they were waiting to help themselves at the food cart, and the food cart had either a fruit plate or cake. Everyone thought it was a memory test. But that had nothing to do with it. It was really about whether they chose fruit or cake. You see, the people that got 2-digit numbers, half of them chose fruit and half of them chose cake. Because, let's be honest, we all want cake. But we know we shouldn't. So
this is where I think I remember what this was now. My memory is getting jogged. This is where I think it has to do with self-fulfillment. So this is a big thing I have an issue with in my personal life. I have a really big stigma against myself about having to earn things and having to be deserving of things. And unless you do something hard, which for me, a lot of things are hard that aren't normally hard for people. So I'll reward myself from the fact that I still have a job somehow, because I thought I'd be gone in this shit from like 2 to 3 weeks, and I'm in here over a year now. So I reward myself just being able to live life, because even just living life is a constant struggle for me. So it's for me relatively very hard. Like, it's very, very hard for me to continue to live life at a semi-normal level with no sleep. So I feel like I need to reward myself, or I feel like the reward, and you know, I don't give myself big rewards. My reward is $1 McDonald's fries at the end of the week, because that's what the deal is. But you know, I feel like I earned this reward because I went through something that to me was very difficult. This is where I think, just psychologically speaking, people, when they do something difficult, they like to reward themselves. And I think it's a good thing. Obviously, within reason, within the middle ground, it's a very good thing.
about half of us are able to think, I should really eat the fruit instead. The people that had to remember a 7-digit number, almost none of them chose fruit.
Yep.
They all chose cake.
Oh, yeah.
What they were experiencing is something called cognitive fatigue.
They were tired.
You see, your brain is like any other muscle. It gets tired.
Yep.
Because they had a constant...
And like any other muscle, if you don't use it, I think you lose it, right? So when you go to a job as a mail clerk where you do very monotonous things all day and you're constantly like in mental torment from your job exploiting you and making you do things you never signed up for and you don't want to do and you don't like to do, I feel like that definitely has an effect on the brain where it makes it worse. If you don't let your muscle rest and you abuse it, again, obviously, it's going to get worse. So the brain is a muscle, and people forget about that. It needs rest, it needs nourishment, and it needs self-love and care. All the things I don't give it.
Concentrate so hard on remembering a 7-digit number, their brain got tired. And so it became less resilient to the idea that they should eat healthy. And the more primitive part of their brain, the part that wanted that nice, fat, sugary cake, took over. Yes. That was a watershed moment in how businesses could manipulate their consumers.
So this is what I feel like they're trying to do right now in society. I feel like in society, they're trying to make it so we have so little, right? To where when they give us just a little bit more, that still isn't enough, but it's a little bit more than they were giving us. We're so mentally fatigued, we're just going to be like, yes, like, thank you, oh my God, like, you're our savior. I don't know if that's a one-to-one comparison with what he's saying. I don't think it is, but it's still what I think.
Into making bad choices in purchasing. So now let's take a walk through your supermarket. Most supermarkets are not going to have the door in the middle of the front of the store. Instead, the door or the doors will be on either side.
Yep.
That's because people are kind of like rats in a maze.
Oh.
We like to turn to the wall. So when you go in, you're going to turn to whichever side that door is closest to. So if it's on the left side of the store, you're going to go to the left wall. If it's on the right side of the store, you're going to go to the right wall.
So I don't know if this is actually true what he's saying. Again, we have to question everything in this series. But this is something I do. I go like aisle by aisle, starting with the leftmost aisle, because my supermarket, guess what? You go in, you're right against the wall. And the first aisle I go through is the one on the wall because we're right there. Granted, I think it could honestly just be a coincidence because you're right there anyway. Why go around just to go back, right? But who knows? He might be right.
And they want you to do that. See, either wall is going to have one of two things. It's almost always vegetables or a bakery.
He's not wrong.
Sometimes flowers, because that works the same as a bakery. You see, when you smell fresh bread or fresh flowers, you have a pleasant experience. And if you're feeling good,
this is where all of this stuff is like subconscious to us, but the companies have figured this out because we've just advanced so much with like science and psychology and stuff. The companies know how to manipulate you subconsciously. They know this shit. It's actually crazy because we would never think of this stuff, right? Or at least most of us wouldn't. But the companies know this and many, many more ways, of which some of them, like I said, I've been experienced to through my media like major. But it's actually crazy how much manipulation and subtle like subversion that goes on in society. It's actually wild. The biggest thing is the food ads. In the food ads, a lot of those ads, they have to show real food. They can't computer generate it because that's against the law. And you know, whether they actually are following the law, who knows. But when you look at it behind the scenes for how they do like the commercial food ads, it is so insanely fake what they're showing you. They're showing you like soap on top of things, like the sodas that are fizzy and stuff. That's not fizz, that's soap and shit, because it looks better. Whatever looks more appealing and will get you to spend money is what they're gonna do, not necessarily what the real product is. Because you know how every time you see a Whopper like in the commercial, that Whopper is strung together, it's painted stuff, like I think it's like glossed over with something, and then they put toothpicks in it to hold it together to make it look extra good. Like, it's insane the amount of like fakeness that they apply to it. It's so wild. I'm telling you, my media class opened up my fucking eyes. It's insane.
Good, you're more likely to buy stuff.
That's true.
That's why when you go to a resort in Las Vegas, they all pipe in a smell because they're trying to make you feel good.
Oh, yeah.
They want you to start your shopping experience in the vegetable section, because the intellectual part of your brain,
it's like,
part you got to work at, knows you should eat healthy.
Oh yeah.
And so it wants you to have lots of zucchini.
Ew.
Your meat and your dairy products are almost always at the back of the store.
This is
That's
insane.
where you're
He's
going to go
right.
next. After you go up that wall full of vegetables, you're going to hit the dairy and you're going to hit the meat, and you're going to be more likely to buy those products while you're still fresh. Then they're going to make you go up and down aisle after aisle, often looking for stuff.
Which is what I do.
You ever wonder why you can't find something where you think it's supposed to be? It's because they don't want you to. They want you to keep looking for it.
Nah, this is where he's
And you're going to have to look through 1,700 kinds of spaghetti sauce.
He's not wrong there.
And it's hard to figure out which one that you're supposed to get. And they want to make it a little hard for you too. They're trying to wear you out. You ever wondered why there's not an essentials aisle at a supermarket? The place where you can go where 90% of what you want is just right there. I mean, we all want the same stuff.
Essential.
Why don't they have an aisle like that? Because they don't want you to have an aisle like that. They want you to walk up and down aisle after aisle, getting slowly more and more tired.
But he's not wrong with this part. It's the same thing to do with gaming, where in gaming, they want you to have battle pass missions. They want weekly resets. Why? Because they want you getting on the game more to look at the shop. Because the more often you're on the game looking at the shop when it refreshes, the more likely you are to see something that you want to buy, the more likely you are to spend money. If they gave you every single mission in the Battle Pass season at the beginning of the season and you did them all, you wouldn't get back on the game until the next season. You'd be done. They don't want that. They spread it out so they could get you on the game more over time so you could see more of the shop.
More likely to just do an impulse buy and reach over and buy that box of sugary syrup. Also subconsciously control what you look at as you're going up and down those aisles.
Very true.
You know, they use eye tracking software to look where people look.
Okay, this is where he's wrong for my supermarket at least, but I could definitely see them doing this for some supermarkets that are a little bit more like high tech, but my one is still kind of behind the times, so definitely not doing it from one in the Bronx in New York, because the Bronx is so shitty. But you know, this is where he starts getting into really big, like, he sounds like a conspiracy theorist.
And they see that they usually look at eye level. And so those are going to be the items that they want to sell.
Nothing for me is eye level, by the way. I'm too short.
You more. The stuff down on the bottom nobody looks at. That's going to be the stuff they make the least profit on. The stuff in the middle, that's what they want you to buy.
Whoa.
So you've just gone down an exhausting aisle of spaghetti sauce.
Yes.
And you get to the end, and there's a end gondola there.
Oh.
You know, that end part that has the deal on the cookies or the chips or the
Bro,
beer.
It's so crazy. It is actually so crazy because he's not wrong. This is how my market is laid out. This is fucking wild. Like it's almost 1-to-1 how accurate he's saying this. This is fucking crazy.
That's prime real estate, because studies show that after you go down that aisle full of spaghetti sauces that you've had to try and figure out, and without even realizing it, you're a little tired, when you make that turn, you're more likely to reach out and to buy that item.
Holy
and then you
moly.
finally get in the line, and what's there? All the chocolate, all the candy, all the stuff you would never buy normally. But
this is
fatigue
the stuff people
brings
know.
Impulse buying.
They keep the sweets out at the end.
This is just one of the tricks that companies use in order to sell you stuff you don't want.
You know what's so funny about this whole thing that I just realized? This guy's just walking on a fucking beach, like on vacation, saying this shit.
You spend your money on things you don't need. And it's not going to work every time. Sometimes you know you only need a can of peaches and you go and get the can of peaches and leave.
Yep.
But it works enough of the time. It's a numbers game for them.
Yep.
If they can get most of the people, most of the time, to buy extra stuff that they don't need, well, then they won. And you never even knew you lost.
Yeah, and that's the way they like it. They're playing the game and you don't even know you're playing with them. But yeah, this is definitely crazy. This shows how they kind of manipulate us, at least in the supermarkets. Way more in society as well, but we're not going to go into all those. Very nice video. Let's go. Let's go next.
Why UPS making billions of dollars in profit? They have people living in the shelter, working for them, can't afford a room.
If it seems like it's getting really expensive...
Hey, look who it is. It's Second Life. I think, right? His name is Second Life? Hold on. Hold on. Where is this thing? Here we go. It's Second Life, right? Or Second Thought. Okay, no, it's Second Thought. Fuck. God damn it.
To order something online or to send a package, you're not going crazy. UPS has been jacking up prices over the past few years. As you've probably guessed by now, none of that additional profit went to its workers. For decades and decades, working at UPS was a good job that provided a comfortable middle-class life, and it was the union that made that possible. Now,
now look, if they quit and the union tries to get involved, they'll just introduce Tessa, the chatbot.
UPS is trying to turn its union workers into Uber and Lyft-esque gig workers that deliver packages out of their own cars. But
what was with that shot? Why did that shot center on that?
Teamsters, who represent 340,000 UPS workers, are fighting back. If they don't get a fair deal by July 31st, they'll launch the biggest single employer strike in American history. Here's why that matters and what's at stake. Not just for UPS workers, but for you too.
So, I believe this was Second Thought or Second Life. It actually might not be. I don't think it's Second Life, actually. It's someone else, actually. I'm stupid. But this is where, right? This came out on the 1st of June. Well, I'm recording this on July 7th. You guys aren't going to see it by July 7th. But this is, ironically enough, where, a little spoiler for the ahead times here, UPS has walked away time and time again from all the deals the Teamsters has given them, and it honestly looks like at this point UPS is going to do the strike. Whether, again, that will do anything, I don't know. Again, I'm really scared we're leading to a point where even en masse we don't have as much power as we used to, which is scary. Excuse me. But yeah, no, this definitely is taking a turn for the worse in current times, and it honestly looks like the strike is going to happen. And it's going to affect everyone. And the Teamsters are like pleading with people, saying, please don't blame the drivers who are striking, blame the corporation. Because again, this is where, you know, through the media and its influence on people, UPS definitely probably buys out. And because of how we just operate, right? We're going to blame the people who are doing it, not the leaders. And this is what happens in war. In war, when we're fighting war, we hate the soldiers of the enemy side, even though some of them don't want to be there. We should really blame the leaders who are forcing everyone to do it when some of them don't want to do it. This is where we cannot blame the drivers who are striking. We have to blame the corporation. And people are going to get angry because at the end of the day, a lot of people say they stand with UPS, this, and that. But once they don't get their package on time and it's a couple days late, that's when they're like, all right, enough with the strike. You know, you guys tried, you failed, now deliver our package for like a wage you can't live on. The fact that the UPS people have to live in shelters is so disgusting. And this is the crazy part too. You know what the crazy part is? I used to work for, but alongside public safety in the CUNY college system. Some of the public safety officers were homeless. They were homeless. And they had to do overtime. And even with the overtime, it was not enough. It was actually crazy. It's actually just insane, like, how these people work full-time jobs, and now, again, without a stupid little side hustle on the side, you don't get fucking anything. Like, without having, like, 5 sources of income, you cannot live in a 1-bedroom apartment by yourself. You can't afford it. Obviously, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but not much. But yeah, no, this strike is definitely looking like it's gonna happen, which is scary, but yo, man, you delay my packages, go ahead. I don't even have enough money to order a lot of stuff anyway, so let them strike. Hopefully they do something. I'm fully with the workers here.
This video is going to show you how the world is actually doing better than ever.
Let's see this lie.
Nearly half of all children in the world were dying before their 5th birthday in the year 1800. And
before medicine was really good and before, like, you know, we had technology, no duh.
Now that is less than 5%.
Which is good.
You can see here that only 10% of adults in the year 1800 could read and write. And now that number is almost 90.
Well, again, if we're comparing it to, like, the early 18s and 1900s, of course it's gonna be fucking different. Like, what the hell? I mean, again, it's good, but, like, bruh.
100 years ago, basically nothing was protected on Earth, and now almost 15% of the entire Earth is protected by...
Which it should be more. It should be way more than 15%. And this is, ironically enough, the part where I'm gonna say, like, yeah, it's protected, but again, people have to still follow the laws. Just because the laws are there does not mean the people follow them, especially the rich people, but not even just the rich people. Take, for example, endangered species. Endangered species are quote-unquote protected, but they still get poached, they still get hunted. Like, that's not going to stop the poachers and the hunters. Yeah, there's obviously consequence and there's punishment, but that doesn't matter to these people if they can get away with it, and some of them still do. So just because they're protected doesn't mean they're safe. even though it is kind of the same word. Oh, if you're protected, you should be safe. But no, they're legally protected, but they're not in reality safe.
By national parks. Smoke particles in the air have gone down by over half. In just 35 years, the share of people with water has gone up 30%. Equal rights for women has become the standard in just a little over a century. Battle deaths per 100,000 people has gone down quite a lot. This shows
Well, yeah, we're not really having too many big wars anymore.
a drastic improvement of how much oil is actually being spilled into the ocean.
That's actually crazy. Like, it should be as close to zero as it can be, but like, bro, that's a big ass drop. That's really good.
Deaths from disasters are way down, and world hunger is constantly on the downfall.
Thank goodness.
We still have a lot of work to do, but the
big facts.
World is not all that bad.
It's not. This is where I always want to, like, you know, tell people, as much as this show is about the dark dimension, it's not fully dark, at least yet. There is some light, it's just we need to make it lighter.
Scrolling on social media or watching the news can make it really hard sometimes to feel like anything in the world is actually going right.
Yes, and that's because they all focus on the bad, because that's what gets the views.
But when we're able to just take a breath, take a moment, and try and see things from a different perspective, there's a lot of good in the world to see, and we don't have a lot of time on Earth to enjoy it.
True, but there's also a lot more bad than there is good, and that's my hard belief. But anyway, I want to point out 2 comments here. Number 1 is from the growth couple, Jen and Ryan. 15% of protected land is still so low, though. So it is an improvement, but like I said, that's still really, really low. And then the next one from Susan. All the graphs going to 2016, laughing emoji. 2016 to present has been a roller coaster. Yeah, let's not look at 2020, right? COVID. Anyway, very nice video. Let's go next.
Breaking new headline says that the artificial sweetener sucralose damages your DNA. I was sent this probably 300 times, so let's get into it. Time school.
So this guy, I really enjoy this guy. I don't think we've showed him yet, but I've seen him personally on my personal profile, where he goes over like all the stuff that gets posted and he sort of fact checks it. So this is where I think we need more people like this that fact check stuff, because as we're going to see in a future video, a video came out of a guy saying a lot of stuff, and because he was confident and he sounded like he knew what he was talking about, you know, I thought it was true. I'm not going to say I thought it was true, and we're going to see the video in a future episode. I thought it was true, and then a video comes out right after, and I see it on my feed, and I sent it to myself here so we could react to it as well, basically disproving this guy as a fucking, like, hooligan. And it's crazy because this guy actually brings up fact, but what if some guy disproves him? So, you know, hopefully we don't have fact checkers for the fact checkers, which is, you know, starting to happen a little bit. But let's see what this guy's going to say. Dr. Itz. I don't know if he's a real doctor, but he definitely does his research, I hope at least.
So here's a study looking at the toxicological properties of sucralose 6-acetate and sucralose, which is a manufacturing impurity and metabolite of sucralose. Now, it's a very technical paper, so let me summarize things for you. They saw that sucralose 6-acetate increased the expression of genes associated with inflammation and oxidative stress, as well as the MT1G gene, which is associated with the liver cancer. Sounds scary, right? Well, let's look a little deeper. They ran 8 different in vitro experiments, and if you're not aware, in vitro means you test cells in a petri dish. So if you're a bunch of cells in a petri dish, put your hands up. Secondly, the TK6 cells were exposed to concentrations of 2 to 4,000 micrograms of sucralose and 6-acetates, and the lowest concentration of sucralose, which resulted in a 2-fold increase in gamma H2AX, which is a marker of DNA damage, was 994 micrograms per mil. Now, they do provide reference dosages that you'd find in sucralose drinks, but what they didn't consider was most of the sucralose you consume is excreted in the feces. So what you drink is not what you absorb. So how much is in your blood after a sucralose drink? Well, this study made adults consume up to 250 milligrams of sucralose, which is the equivalent of 4 diet sodas. They found blood concentrations peaked at 2 to 400 nanograms per mil. And do you know how big a nanogram is? 1,000 times smaller than a microgram. So if 4 diet drinks reaches 2 to 400 nanograms, you need to drink a minimum of 8,000 diet drinks to reach the concentrations they used in the study. The water would kill you long before sucralose did anything.
That is true.
Sucralose is fine. Class dismissed.
Wow. Look at that. See, again, this is where stuff is presented to us in society, and because A, we don't understand it, or B, we can't look further into it, that we think all these things that are false. Oh, you know, they made this report about sucralose, it damages your DNA, this, and that. Well, yeah, but look at the amount, right? And again, I'm going with what this guy's saying is if it's true, because I believe it might be true. Like, you know, that amount is never going to reach us to where if we did reach that amount, somehow we're drinking like a fucking pool's worth of soda, which is impossible. Like, this is crazy, bruh. This guy's actually so good. I love this guy. But anyway, yeah. Showing us again how a lot of our ideas in society, even though we think we know things, we really don't. Even if it's from like an official paper too, because again, that was like a scientific paper that people saw and they misinterpreted. So yeah, people are stupid. Let's go next.
This is just a made-up story.
Hey, look, it's this guy again.
None of it's real. Woke up this morning in the United States of Blackrock. First thing I did is I went and sat on the toilet, pulled out my iPhone, and checked in on Instagram. Grabbed a glass, poured myself a glass of tap water, and I thought I should make some breakfast. So I had some ham, a couple of eggs, and some of my favorite kind of bread. Threw a little bit of my jam on there, and I got dressed in some of my favorite clothes. Walked out the door, hopped in my car.
So at this point, if you guys don't notice what's happening, every single thing he's mentioning has a stock that makes it, has a company that makes it, that has a stock. And the biggest owners of that stock are Vanguard and Blackrock.
Drove to the new job I just got, doing data analytics for Amazon. Lunchtime, I got hungry. I Ubered up some McDonald's, and then after work, I hit the gym on my way home. Got home hungry and tired, so you know I ovened up one of my favorite frozen dinners. Fed my dog her favorite dog food, and caught up on a little bit of news to make sure I know what's going on in the world. God damn, the news was depressing, so I poured myself a glass of High West whiskey, and that finally helped me relax, and I climbed into bed. Oh, wait. And I climbed into bed. That's right. Gonna be a great day in the United States of Blackrock tomorrow, I'm sure.
Honestly, he's not wrong. It really is the United States of Blackrock. Oh my god, that would be such a good title for this episode. I think I'm putting that one. The United States of Blackrock.
So y'all just have a good day now out there. Be kind to one another. Drink your water.
Yep. Drink your water, owned by Blackrock. This is fucking insane. They own everything. Let's go next. Holy shit.
ChatGPT can now create your infrastructure for you.
Holy shit. And remember, this was released in April 25th. We're in fucking July.
And it does anything you ask it to. Okay, so here's how you do it. You go to Do the Thing AI. You sign up for early access. Once you get access, it'll ask you what you want it to do. I had a ticket today to create 2 servers running the latest version of Postgres. So I went in there and I just said, create 2 servers running the latest version of Postgres. Then told me, creating these now. And then it was done. Created these 2 instances of Postgres. They're accessible here. I didn't believe it. I went to connect these things. I connected to my database, log into my AWS console to verify, and there they were. While those coworkers you don't like spend all day trying to provision a Postgres database, you can use this tool to generate it in 5 minutes. ChatGPT becomes more and more sentient every day. It's going to change the world of all of us. DevOps engineers, no different.
Bruh, this was in April. I don't understand. Holy shit. Like, AI is gonna just replace everything, and I hope it becomes good. Like, I hope it helps people, but it's just gonna take our jobs, and the government isn't gonna want to like help us in any way, even though there's not enough jobs, and it's just gonna be bad overall. It's gonna be good for the rich people, bad for the rest of us. Oh man, it's very scary, man, because it could be so good. That's the sad part. It could be so good, but it's probably gonna be bad. It's so scary. Anyway, let's go next.
You want to know which shampoo brands are family owned?
Okay, we're not gonna go into this because this is 5 minutes, and we've been doing this for about 2 hours. 2 hours and 7 minutes. So we're gonna stop here. I think we got through a lot today. I think it was a very nice episode. We made it all the way to... Let's see here. Okay. We made it all the way to right here, to June 11th. So we are still under a month, and I'm not going to be recording any extra episodes because, again, this weekend I'm going to be busy. But we'll see. I sometimes go against what I say. Not often, but sometimes I do. But I have no extra days off, and we're back to the normal grind with work and everything, which means no sleep, as if I got some anyway, and more depression. So we're going to like this. We're going to remember we left off here, and we're going to start next episode next week on June 11th. But anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed. If you want to send me anything, if you want to show a TikTok that you think would fit into the dark dimension, you can add my main account, Tecnics, and send it to me there. And if I deem it worthy, I will send it to myself here, and we will show it off on stream eventually. Or not on stream, on on the video eventually. Anyway, I hope everyone enjoyed, and I will see everyone the next time I do this shit. Bye, emu tori. Emu means smile. Eee.